All right, good day, everybody. Thank you for the gift of your time today. This is the fourth in the series of approximately 2-hour webinars that I've been doing for future firefighters. This one's titled 21 Key Points to Assist You Becoming a Firefighter. I'll talk about the other ones shortly and where you can access those if you didn't get a chance. I know there's some familiar names on here, so thank you very much for jumping on board again. I know we all have busy schedules, busy lives. So again, I appreciate taking a couple hours out of your day to at least join us today. And then more importantly, I'll share my contact information at the end so you know that I'm a resource both now and in the future. So as we get started here, a little bit about myself. Been in the fire service for over 28 years. Started out as a fire explorer with the City of Alameda Fire Department. From there, I jumped to be a student firefighter with the Oakland Fire Department. It's a work experience program through Chabot College's fire technology program. Great way to get experience hands-on with the department for your resume and just to network and build relationships. Chabot has a program with multiple fire departments around the Bay Area. Other colleges around the country I know have similar programs. You just got to do your homework, but it's a great way to, volunteer your time and get some valuable experience. From there, I got my first first paid job. It was a part-time paid job up in the Sacramento area, just south of Sacramento in the town of Elk Grove, now known as Casumnes Fire. Hey, I think it was like $4.50 or $5 an hour, if even that, in the early 90s. But there was no benefits at the time, but at least I got to pay into the state retirement system. They deducted money out of my check, so I guess the $4.50 I made an hour got reduced even more when some of that went toward my retirement. Which, hey, you know what? At the time, it was a lot of money, and struggling to get by. But now, 28 years later, that year and a half I had with Elk Grove as a part-time firefighter, it's in the retirement system. You don't think of those things back then at the time, but you really got to think about finances. And if you do take the time to, not just obviously focus on this webinar, but take a look around my YouTube site, my websites, and look at the other ones, you'll hear me hit a lot about finances, focusing on the future, planning for the future, because too many, I think, people, and it's not just firefighters, it's too many people who just live in the now and don't give a crap about the future. And I get it, but the future comes here fast, and the more you can prepare and plan, the better off you're going to be. So I'll just leave it at that, but I'm glad I was able to do that. From there, I stepped up, got my first full-time job about 4.5 years after testing. So I've been at this game about 4.5 years testing. Well worth it. Over 50 tests it took me to get hired, here in Santa Clara County, but well worth it. And I've been there for almost 25 years now. Time flies fast. So I did about 5 years as a firefighter, engineer, paramedic. The paramedic was the key thing that got me a job. Because instead of having hundreds, if not thousands, to compete against, I was competing literally. There was 11 jobs, and I think there was 60 of us getting interviewed for 11 jobs. Awesome odds. Almost 28. That was like in 95. So 25 years later, you know what? Those are still the odds. Departments are struggling to find paramedics. So some of the webinars I'm going to discuss being a paramedic and whether that's the right thing or not. But for right now, just plant that seed if you're interested. Please do some research. From there, I got promoted to captain. Did that for about 5 years. From there, I got promoted to battalion chief. Did that for about 5 years. But all great positions. And then I've been a deputy chief for the last 9 years. Right now, deputy chief of training. So very fortunate to have done a lot of different things. And again, that's the thing. My career is not by luck. I took the time when I was in your shoes to really focus in the future, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 30 years in advance. The only thing different maybe outcome-wise is that I expected to be a fire chief by now. I don't mean that in an arrogant way or an entitled way. It's just, that's what I planned for. I've taken some fire chief exams, and now I look at it going, you know what? Hey, it wasn't meant to be. And I look at any department head around the country, fire chief, police chief, city manager, elected officials such as city council members. It's not a fun job being a department head. You're really at the top of the heap, and you're at the top of the target too. And it sucks. Not saying that, there's some great people out there that are doing those jobs, but it's just, you know what, things are done for reasons, and I'm not complaining. But anyway, I wouldn't change anything looking back at what I've been fortunate to do. With that, I've offered 3 books, 2 on firefighter preparation and 1 on promotional preparation, 2 more being finalized, one of them being promotional preparation, another one on leadership right now. I've had over 200 articles published in all the major magazines, all accessible for the most part off my websites, which I'll share here in a second. So you can download those. You should be able to download those free of charge. Um, I've been teaching as long as I've been in the fire service. So, I've been fortunate to be involved in a lot of different teaching opportunities, teaching at the college, at Chabot College in Hayward. I've taught and or had scheduled, I say scheduled because I had a lot of classes scheduled in spring and summer and fall around the country, teaching for fire departments, leadership, officer development stuff, as well as teaching at conferences that I've had to push into 2021 now, but that's okay. It's not all about me, and we're all dealing with this in some capacity. So, I enjoy teaching at the college level, but I also enjoy teaching at the national level too when I get the opportunity to go to fire departments or, teach to all ranks of personnel. It's a great experience. I also am on the I'm also an adjunct faculty member for the National Fire Academy out in Emmitsburg, Maryland. Great experience once you get on the job to take some classes. They're free of charge. Your taxes pay for it. I've been an oral board rater and proctor for thousands of candidates. So I've been on both sides of the table as a candidate, like I said, testing for 4.5 years, 50 some tests, obviously took promotional exams. And now I've been fortunate to be on the other side for pretty much every rank in the fire service, to be an evaluator, every rank except fire chief, because typically when you're going for a fire chief's interview, they have other fire chiefs, not lower ranking people, interview you, or also above city manager and so forth. But I've had a chance to see things from all angles. I've also mentored countless individuals, assisting them either get hired or even get promoted. And I've had helped hundreds of people get promoted to all ranks, including fire chief, because the oral interview process for fire chief isn't that drastically different for, say, deputy, battalion chief, captain, or even firefighter. Just sort of different types of questions, but the process of preparation is the same. As I mentioned, 2 of the books that these webinars are based on. These are 2 distinct books that I published, but they're different, but they're complementary. So they both have different information within, but that's sort of what I'm trying to build upon right now. And both those are available off my websites that I'll share here as well at the end. So my goals for these webinars, and it's not just the webinars, this is for anyone that's known me for the 28 years I've been involved in instruction at the college or at the department level or anywhere around the country. I have a passion for helping others get hired, stay hired, get promoted, stay promoted, be the best they could be at any rank, regardless if they want to get promoted, because nothing says you have to or should be promoted. And I want to see you get to retirement and enjoy that retirement, hopefully in a healthy manner. So my hope is to share some of that passion, inspire you, inform you on certain things that you may not be aware of, educate you on things you may not be aware of, encourage you to go down rabbit holes. What I mean by that is by sharing some maybe website links, whether they're mine or whether they're others, go check it out. It's like going to Firehouse Magazine's website. You go there, hopefully you see something that leads you down another path, another trail, another avenue, and keeps you busy for hours. So that's my hope, is because that's how we learn from each other and how we learn more about what we want to do, and in this case, be in our careers. I want obviously share my passion, and I want to pay it forward, hoping you do the same. Someone said I should be charging for these webinars. I mean, I probably could. I don't know if anyone would pay for them, but on the flip side, I thought about that, but I go, you know what? For entry-level firefighters, I was in your shoes. People do community service in different forms and fashions. I've done various things over my life, my career and my life, of volunteering, giving back, at the department, off the department, different lines of, different industries besides the fire service. This is my way of paying it forward. And people go, well, what do you mean? Just by not charging, you're not making any money. Yeah, but I'm still having to pay for the Zoom services, pay for the web hosting services that I have. And I'm not complaining, but that's my way of paying it forward. Just like when people call me up, I typically don't charge entry-level candidates when hey, can you call me for advice? And I'm not trying to sell anything here either, but it's my way of paying it forward, giving it back. So take that for what it's worth. That picture there is a bunch of our recruits a couple of years ago. They're taking the oath of office. It's their choice. We're not forcing you to take the job of being a firefighter, a civil servant. No one forced you to, I'm hoping. So you're raising that hand to take the oath of office, saying, you know what, I'm going to do my best to serve the community. Serve, keep that word in mind. Serve others, serve the community, serve my department, be a leader, provide customer service. It's not about me anymore. It's about us. It's about we. And I just want to keep those things in mind. Now, I love this picture here. Someone shared this with me, so I don't know who to give credit. Someone shared it, but I can't remember where they got it, so I can't give credit as appropriate. But here's a comprehensive list of everything you're entitled to and what the world owes you. I honestly think that some of the younger generations are getting the shaft because it's very easy to pigeonhole generations. And I'm not going to bag any generation or bash any generation. I think it's unfair that the younger ones are getting, hammered because, oh, they're the millennials, for example, they're the entitlement generation. I call BS on that one. I see all age groups entitled. I look at what's going on today, just in so many different forms and fashions of things we're dealing with right now. Entitlement is from little kids all the way up to the elderly. So don't blame one group of people. So no one is entitled or owes you a job. You've got to earn this, whether it's the fire department, the police department, a government job, private industry, professional sports. You're an athlete. You want to be an athlete. You want to be a musician. You got to work for it. And with that, you got a blank slate of paper here. Hopefully you're taking some good notes. And if nothing else, I'll share this webinar afterward. I'll post it on my YouTube page so you can actually reference it if you want to. If you need something to put you to sleep later on at night, perfect. This will be it for you too. So as I shared my websites, the bottom one, ChabotFire.com. I teach at Chabot College, as I mentioned. I run their website free of charge. The college doesn't pay me because they couldn't afford, that sounds bad. They don't have the budget to pay for it. That's my way of giving back to the college. So I give back to the college by doing the website and my time, the actual cost of the website. But again, I don't mind doing that because the college has done good for me over the years. I started out as a student there, taking my EMT, my Firefighter 1 Academy. I got my 2-year degree there. I've been teaching there for, like I said, almost 28 plus years. So they've done good for me and I try to support them as best as possible. So lots of great free information. See the words free stuff. Free stuff is on both my websites. So lots of good articles that I've written and resources for you. My personal website, code3firetraining.com, has a lot of officer development, promotional preparation, leadership stuff, training stuff. Now, before you check out saying, hey, I'm not even on the job yet, I'm not even worried about promotion, why do I even waste my time on that website? Well, the biggest thing I think you can do to prepare to become a firefighter is prepare for the position. Don't prepare for the test. I mean, you got to pass the test, but prepare for the position. So if you want to be a firefighter, you're preparing for the position. And that means that whatever they throw you in the testing process, you should have no problem taking care of or dealing with. So just something to think about there. So prepare for the position. So yeah, it's good to prepare with the entry-level stuff, but like I said, go to my website and start learning about the job of a firefighter. Not just the job of a firefighter, but of the next rank up, an engineer or a captain. Because some of the best advice I ever got was don't just prepare for the position, prepare for the position above. I know that sounds odd. So the position above firefighter is usually engineer or captain in most departments. Doesn't mean you'll be functioning in that role, but it gives you a better understanding of that role and what they're going to expect of you when you're in that position of a firefighter. So just a lot of good resources, information. Now, this is the fourth of a series of 2-hour webinars I've done over the last 2 months. These are all posted on my website, both the websites, if you go to the main page, and on my YouTube page. But Reach for the Firefighter Badge, do you have what it takes? 25 reasons to hire you as a firefighter, as well as mastering the fire department process. So if you want to go back, you haven't had a chance to check those out, please check those out. Now, in addition to the 2-hour webinars, which I know 2 hours is a long time to sit through, I can't sit through 2 hours. I'm watching a number of things right now this morning, last night, but I take them in little bites. I totally get that. So because of that, I've created a lot of shorter episodes that have taken some of those bigger topics and broken them down. So I put together a number of series of shorter episodes, anywhere from 15 minutes up to 45, 50 minutes on smaller topics. So it'll sort of be like a deep dive into certain topics. You know, one of them being, why do you want to be a firefighter? 10 must-do things to become a firefighter, based on an article I wrote for Fire Rescue 1 magazine. Another one on 4 reasons not to become a firefighter, based on, again, another article that I wrote for Fire Rescue 1 magazine. What does a firefighter actually do? Do you really know what you're getting into? As well as what is required to be a firefighter. And then the last one I've had published is what hoops do I need to jump through? I've already got like 21 that I haven't published, but right now 7 are up. And like I said, these are easier ones. So lots of information for you to go through. Now, you may see a lot of similarities on some of the things I talk about every episode. There's no way of getting around it. There's a reason for the redundancy, because people learn things by repeating and reinforcing. So that's why some of the things that you may hear me talk about regularly, such as don't prepare for the test, prepare for the position. You're going to hear me say a lot because I want to ingrain it into your head of the importance of doing that. So just some things to think about and a lot of things to keep you busy, because with the downtime right now, Now is your chance to focus on getting ahead. So the objectives of this webinar, my end goal of this session is to hopefully have you be able to identify 21 key points to assist you in becoming the best firefighter candidate you can be, and also determine what a fire department is looking for in a firefighter. And I'll let you out a secret. There is no one perfect candidate. We don't hire resumes, we hire people. And what one oral board today is looking for may be different with 3 different people. So don't get too worried about all this stuff. Just be yourself, focus on being yourself, and focus on being the best you can be. So objectives here as we go through here, objectives. So moving away from the objectives, 21 key points. Let's get started on this stuff. First key point, you got to know your strengths and you got to know your weaknesses. And this is probably the toughest thing that any one of us can do when you really think about it, because the strengths are easy. If someone were to ask you, hey, Steve, what are your strengths? You'd probably be able to say, well, hey, this, that. I kick butt at that stuff. Well, the hard part is actually, excuse me one second. The hard part is the weaknesses. And I say that because think about that. Strengths are easy because we all think that we have great strengths in certain things. But when it comes to weaknesses, how many of you honestly love to admit that you have a weakness? It sucks when someone tells me, especially my wife, she goes, hey, you suck at listening. And I'm like, what? She's like, case in point. That sucks. But here's why you need to understand your strengths and your weaknesses. Or first of all, how to find out your strengths and weaknesses. First of all, I get this a lot. I love asking future firefighters, hey, how many tests have you taken? How many departments have you applied for? I love asking those questions. And the usual answers I get is, Steve or Chief, I haven't taken any tests, or I've only taken 1 or 2 tests, and I don't know, or I'm not ready yet. What do you mean you're not ready yet? What are you waiting for? You don't get hired unless you get in front of an oral board and take a test. And if you fail a test, that's fine, because I like to tell people you'll find your strengths and weaknesses by taking every test you qualify for. Now, if you're finding out that you don't qualify for a lot of tests, meaning so a lot of tests require maybe EMT or paramedic or firefighter 1, well, the writing's on the wall. If you're not being able to take a lot of tests, especially in your regional area, because maybe all the departments require a paramedic, well, you have 2 choices. Either find a paramedic school or start branching out and looking in other areas, other states. You have no other choice. Don't wait for them to relax the paramedic requirement. Now, regarding taking every tests, I don't think any of you, including myself, likes to fail anything in life. I don't. It sucks. It hurts our ego. It's not fun to get that rejection letter of like, crap, shit, But to me, the benefit of failing something is now giving yourself the opportunity to do better at it. It sucked when I failed a fire department written test when I'm like, okay, I got a college degree here. How the hell did I fail a written test? A written test based on English, math. I smoked that crap in high school and college. Well, yeah, where I failed was the mechanical ability portion of the written test because I'm mechanically declined. Yeah, most are mechanically inclined. I'm the one that's declined. All the tools in the toolbox are my wife's, and I'm good with that because when the water heater breaks, she's the one that says, hey, I got it fixed. You owe me whatever money for the new water heater. Okay. I don't touch that stuff because I'll break it. You may go, well, how the hell are you a firefighter? Well, I drive a desk as a deputy chief, but like I said, I spent time as a firefighter on a fire engine and a fire truck and all the rigs we have, a captain, a battalion chief. I have a basic understanding of mechanical ability, but I didn't have enough of it when I started out to become a firefighter. Thus, like I said, I failed one of my first written tests because it was mostly the mechanical ability portion. And that was like 20 to 25% of the test. Gears, pulleys, pistons, stuff that I really never understood because I guess chose not to understand that stuff. So I realized very quickly I better get mechanically at least maybe not fully inclined, but at least understandable. So I started reaching out to friends of like, hey, try to find friends that work in construction that teach me about this stuff. So the benefit of taking every test you qualify for is you start finding out hopefully your strengths, your weaknesses, whether it's the written test, the oral interview, whatever part of the process. I touched on this already. Ask others their honest opinion, but be careful for what you ask for. Seriously, if you truly tell somebody, please give me your honest opinion. How's my post-COVID-19? Well, it's not post-night. We're still in COVID-19, but how's my COVID-19 haircut look? As I had to wait 3.5 months for a haircut before I drove 30 minutes to Santa Cruz County. You know what? Most people are usually going to say, well, hey, Steve, the haircut looks great, even if it doesn't, because people don't want to hurt your feelings. And then even if they do want to maybe tell you their honest opinion, well, Steve, it is a little crooked over here. And you know what? You could have probably done that a little bit better. They went out on a limb to give you your honest opinion. And what happens usually when that, even if I ask for it most of the time, it's human nature to be able to say, well, come on, no, that was this, or making excuses. And it's like, hey, dude, you asked me for your honest opinion. Or like when your significant other goes, hey, how do I look in this outfit? Does it make me look fat? Loaded question, right? But maybe not. With my wife, for example, it's not a loaded question, but it's still hard for me to give an honest opinion. But that's what she wants. She gets pissed when I don't, but that's not everybody. But you got to be comfortable enough to ask others their honest opinion. And when they're being honest and trying to help you out, bite your tongue, bite your lip, and thank them, even if you hate hearing what they're saying, because that's sometimes the best way to find it. Strengths is no big deal, but when it comes to weaknesses, here's another good way to find out your strengths and your weaknesses. Besides asking others, how about from watching others and seeing the good and the not so good of what they're doing and realizing you'll never do the same thing. For example, what I mean by that is when I was a firefighter, we had one battalion chief that he was a yeller and a screamer. He yelled all the time at people. He screamed at people. He disrespected people because of the yelling and screaming for the most part. And I vowed to myself, when I become a battalion chief, I will never do the same things. Now, sometimes we have to yell. I mean, if we're on the fire ground, the building's ready to collapse, the roof is ready to fall in, and someone's in a position where maybe they're going to get injured or killed, and maybe it's loud out there. Yeah, we may have to scream, get your butt away from the building. I get it. But that's less than 5% of our job. 95% of the time, we shouldn't be yelling or screaming. But take the time. Everyone can be an example. I remember asking somebody going, God, that chief is a bad example because he yells and screams. I remember a smart captain going, no, everyone's a role model. Everyone can teach you what to do and what not to do. He's a guy that can teach you what not to do. He also had some good traits too, but anyway, watch others, learn from others. One of the things about weaknesses, it sucks hearing about certain weaknesses, but the benefit is now you have a chance to do something about the weakness. Half the battle about a weakness is hearing about it or knowing about it. Now the other half, do something about it. And I say that because it's a common oral board question. More and more oral boards will ask you questions such as, what are your greatest strengths? Or maybe what are your 3 greatest strengths? And then they may ask you as well, and besides your strengths, what's your greatest weakness? So I always encourage candidates to have 3 strengths, 3 weaknesses. And before you say, well, what's the best strength to have, Steve? What's the best or worst weakness to have? Okay, there is none. It's how you sell it, how you back it up. So if I were to ask 150 people, which I do, like in a classroom sometime, I'll go around the room. Okay, what's your greatest strength? The first person usually, I'm motivated. Second person, I'm dedicated. Third person, I'm loyal. Fourth person, I'm a hard worker. Fifth person, I'm ethical. Well, over time, you're going to hear probably motivated a number of times, dedicated, ethical, honest, the same things. If you're the first person saying that in the oral board, that's great. It's unique, I guess. However, if you're that 5th person, that 25th person that's telling that same oral board who's been at it for the last week or 2 weeks, watching hundreds of candidates, now you're, oh yeah, my greatest strengths are I'm motivated, dedicated, and loyal. And so are 25 of the other friggin' candidates. Now you're just running in the mix or blending in the mix with others. So there is no right or wrong. My key is have at least 3 strengths. More importantly, to make it sound unique, is back it up with facts. I'm dedicated because this, or here's an example. I'm dedicated. One of my examples when I was testing for firefighter is I'm dedicated, and to show how is I've worked at Long's drugstores for the last 12, 13 years, and I haven't called in sick in whatever, I think it was like 10 or 11 years. Yeah, that's dedicated or loyal or however you want to put it. So state it, back it up with a fact, and then tie it into the position. So think about it. Any strength that you say, you should be able to back it up with something you've done. And that helps the oral board get a little bit more into your background because they don't know anything about you. They want to know more about you. And then by tying it to the positions, anything ties into the position. For example, think about motivated, dedicated, loyal. I think it's critical for firefighters to be motivated because everyone's expecting me to be motivated. My crew, my entire shift, my entire department, the public that pays our salary to be here, the community, blah, blah, blah. No different from loyal, ethical, honest, whatever else there. So say it, give an example, support it, and tie it into the position. Now, on the flip side of weaknesses, have 3 weaknesses. Try to make sure that you're also making those weaknesses better. For example, you don't want to come in there and say, well, you know what? My biggest weakness is, let's see, hazardous materials. Okay. So to improve that hazmat weakness, I just completed my 4-year degree in hazardous materials, whatever, administration, for lack of a better term. Got my 4-year degree in hazmat administration. I'm scheduled to take the hazmat technician class next week. I'm subscribing to Hazmat Magazine, and I've got a job working as a hazmat inspector. Okay, think about that. You just said your weakness was hazmat. Okay, that, like it's mine too and many others. You're doing a number of things which are good to try to prevent that or make that not be a weakness, but make that be a strength. But is it really a weakness anymore? To me, I think it's probably maybe not a full strength, but it's probably no longer a weakness either. So you don't want to necessarily say something that you're now not having as a weakness, but you also want to show you're doing something about it, but maybe you haven't solved the problem, if that makes sense. Plus, you probably don't want to have it as a deal breaker either. Think about the deal breaker. You know, you're interviewing me, you're the oral board, you're interviewing me. It's like, Steve, what's your greatest weakness? Well, my greatest weakness is I'm an alcoholic. However, I'm recovering though, because I have joined Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, I'm in the 12-step program. I think I'm in step 3 or 4. I can't remember right now. You know, I haven't had a drink, you know, in probably, I don't know, 3 days. Probably not the best, not that we can discriminate. We're not supposed to. It's against the law to discriminate against people, especially people with medical problems. Like alcoholism is considered that, to the best of my knowledge. However, you probably don't want to say that. Just like if you're interviewing me for you want me to be your next fire chief. Hey, Steve, what's your greatest weakness? Fire chief, the department head. Well, my greatest weakness is I'm not a people person. Or maybe I'm a terrible listener. Well, if I'm going to be the fire chief, the leader, the department head, the face of your department, I don't think saying that I'm a terrible listener and I'm not a people person are going to probably go over well, right? Yeah, so find those things that are not deal breakers. So I think that's really the key. But don't think you have to find the perfect answer, because there is no perfect answer. There are no right or wrongs as long as they're not deal breakers. Your key is to be able to make them come from the heart, the brain, and sell them to the panel that makes it sound unique. So key point number 2, know as much as you can about the position you're aspiring to. This is critical, as I shared earlier. And how do you do that? Talk to those doing the job. Why would you expect, man, I love this. When I talk to students in college, I ask them, hey, you want to be a firefighter? Heck yeah, chief. How many firehouses have you visited? None. And then I love answers. Oh, I don't know how to find them. Okay, before the internet, it was go to your yellow pages, or even if you didn't have yellow pages, which some of you go, what are the yellow pages? I get it. Most of us, it's not too difficult to find a firehouse in our community, for the most part, because they're usually on main streets, main thoroughfares that we've probably driven down all the time. Well, with the internet, you should know where the firehouses are located, because they're all usually listed in the department website. And if you haven't been down there, why not? Because if you're saying you want to do their job, then you better talk to those people doing the job. And the people that say are at your local department, talk to them, but also talk to people in neighboring departments, because everyone's got an opinion, good, bad, or indifferent, and every department's slightly different, good, bad, or indifferent. So talk to those doing the job. You know, start building a network up, building relationships, because you never know where you're going to see these people again. They may be valuable resources that you may be related to, hell, for the rest of your career, if not beyond. You never know where you're going to become, you know, who you're going to become friends with and or create great relationships with. Obviously, I mentioned the internet is a great resource to find out a lot about the position itself. Read and understand the job flyers. Now, when a department is testing for firefighters, so like right now I saw Alameda County Fire Department. I mean, if you Google right now, firefighter job, firefighter employment, who's hiring firefighters, words like that, you'll find departments around the country that are looking for firefighters. So given that, read the job flyer, the job announcement that they're posting. If I'm not mistaken, Alameda County Fire, which is where Oakland is located in, just across the bay from San Francisco. And I say that because I know some people are from the SF Bay area and some obviously are from out of state on this webinar too. But anyway, I know Alameda County Fire is testing. So if nothing else, go to Alameda County Fire's website and take a look at the job flyer. Now, I can't remember what the requirements are. They may require EMT or I don't know what, but you know what? Read the darn flyer. What's the worst that could happen? The benefit of reading the flyer is start to familiarize yourself with what things are usually in a job flyer or job announcement, because you'll learn a lot about the job, the department, the position, and what Alameda County lists in their job flyer is probably not that drastically different from what my department does, or San Francisco does, or Sacramento does. So start reading as many of those flyers as you can. Even if you don't qualify for them, there's the benefit. I know a lot of people say, well, I don't qualify for them because I don't have my paramedic or firefighter one. Well, you can still gain valuable information from it. Plus, just because they require a paramedic or firefighter one or even EMT right now on this application process doesn't mean they'll be doing that next time. I've known many departments that have required EMT over the years, and then the next time, because maybe they need more diversity, they may need more applicants to pick from, they may need more whatever, they drop the EMT requirement and they just say, hey, you know what? We just care about hiring good people. We'll put you through EMT. We'll put you through paramedic. It's rare. So just because a department does something this time, this go around, doesn't mean that they won't change. They may get higher requirements next time. They may lower the requirements. They may keep the requirements the same. But again, read them, learn from them. More importantly, read the fine print. And I say that because I'll use Stockton, California. Stockton, about an hour east of Oakland, Central Valley Fire Department, I think 14, 15 stations at last count. Stockton traditionally has hired people without EMT. Typically, they've hired people just 18 years old, high school diploma or GED. And I know a lot of students go, well, Chief, they require EMT. I go, no, they don't. Read the fine print. The fine print says EMT required by end of probation, which means you can get hired without even being an EMT. I mean, it's obviously nice to have your EMT because then you don't have to worry about it, because I don't know about you, but I don't want to have to deal with EMT school in my year of probation, because during the recruit academy, a couple months long, you're not going to have time to get your EMT. And if they don't put you through it and they say, just get it done by the end of probation, yeah, you're only working 10 days a month in most departments. Well, I got 20 days off a month, but you also have probationary testing. Most departments, as a probationary firefighter, you've got maybe daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly tests. So adding EMT on top of that, I mean, EMT for many is extremely challenging. It can be done. But here's the thing, read the fine print. So you can get hired in Stockton. As long as you get your EMT by the end of probation, you get to keep your job. So, and you go, what? Yeah. I don't know if they'll do that for the next go around testing or not, but you know what? That's why it's critical to read the fine print. So even if it says EMT at the top, there may be a stipulation, just like some departments don't require the EMT at time of application. They say time of end of probation, like I mentioned, or maybe even time of appointment, which could be the first day of the academy, which could be a year or two after the testing process, which, you know, is a long time. So read the flyers, you get a lot of information. Number two, train and educate yourself on your fire service. There's some simple ways to do that. I've talked about this and I'll keep on hammering this. Talk to those doing the job. Go to firehouses, start with your local firehouse, then branch out from there. Meet as many firefighters of all ranks as you can. Talk to your family members, talk to your friends. Let them know you want to be a firefighter, because chances are someone in your group, your family, your friends, maybe those that you work with, know a firefighter. And they can easily say, hey, you know what? Hey, my brother's a firefighter. My mom's a firefighter. My sister, whatever. Take advantage of those opportunities. You know, hey, can I maybe get their contact information so I can maybe meet them for coffee or stop by the firehouse or, you know, whatever, pick their brain. So you got to train and educate yourself. That's another way to prepare for the position. Subscribe to trade magazines. Now, the old school method, and I'm looking around for a magazine right now, the old school method of, say, a magazine. Okay, I know I'm old. And when I still love hard copy versus digital. That's just me, nothing personal. Don't hate the game, you know, don't hate the player, don't hate the game, just personal preference. I like stuff I can put my hands on, but that's just me. I know that's not everybody. There used to be a ton of magazines out there. Now I think we're down to about 2 trade magazines. I think we're down to Fire Engineering is probably the biggest one, and then Firehouse magazine. I mean, both of which I subscribed to when I was a little kid. But there used to be Fire Rescue magazine. Now it's just digital. It's still available, but just digital. But 2 print magazines. There's a few EMS related magazines, such as Journal of Emergency Medical Services, EMS World. There isn't that many. But obviously, I think they're very valuable, if, you know, and I'll share their websites in a few seconds here. But even if you don't subscribe to Fire Engineering or Firehouse, go to their website. Pretty simple. Google Fire Engineering, or just go to fireengineering.com, firehouse.com. They both have free email lists, which I encourage you to subscribe to so you can stay on top of stuff. They both have lots of free information on their websites, even if you don't subscribe to the magazines. But go to their websites, you'll learn a lot there. Subscribe to email lists. On the ChabotFire.com website, I actually have a section I put together, free email lists. If you go to ChabotFire.com, free email lists, I've got a lot of them besides the 2 I just mentioned, firehouse.com, fireengineering.com, firerescuemagazine.com, fireclosecalls.com. There's tons of them, but subscribe to those, like I said, free email lists to stay engaged. Get those daily emails to stay engaged. And I know it's information overload, but welcome to the real world. If you can't manage this now, it ain't going to get easier when you get hired on the job and have to go through probation or whatever else. You know, obviously the internet's a great resource. Obviously be careful about what you're looking at, because you never know whether it's fake news or not, or, and I don't mean to use the term fake news, because I know there's sometimes some bias with that term. Let's just say inaccurate information. And you know what, in all honesty, I can go to any website out there, any government website, any fire department website, any private company website, and guess what? I'll probably find an error or two. Not just spelling errors. I don't mean spelling errors or grammatical errors. I mean errors in facts and figures. Not because they're trying to be, you know, screw with you or do something inappropriate. It's just, I mean, I run 2 websites. It's hard to keep those darn things up to date, because as soon as you publish something, it's out of date because of something else that you can't. I mean, hey, Chief, your link for this website's out of date. I don't have to, I mean, I'm not making excuses, but don't discount the information, but also don't 100% believe everything you see. That's why I encourage you to go down rabbit holes and do your homework. And obviously school, there's a lot of benefits. It's not, most departments, I mean, probably 99% of the departments out there do not require a 2-year degree, do not require a 4-year degree. Why? Because they limit their applicant pool. The more requirements you have, especially higher education, you limit your applicants. And most departments don't want to limit applicants. They want a broader pool to pick from. However, the benefit of you going through school, especially say getting your 2-year degree in fire technology, fire science, is that number one, a lot of those programs have EMT programs, which is a bonus, or a Firefighter 1 Academy, another bonus. But you're learning more than you'll ever learn on the job. Seriously, the 2-year degree you go through is going to teach you more than your fire department will ever be able to teach you. It's just a law of numbers and, you know, time. There ain't no way we can, yeah, I'm a college graduate, ain't no way. There is no way that we as a fire department can provide you as much education and training as you can get from a college for a 2-year degree. Again, it's not required, but prepare for the position. Next key point, learn time management skills. Time management is critical. You know, I know old school, again, I'm old school. I've transitioned to the new world, obviously, a number of years ago. I'm not that old. I love technology. I mean, obviously phones for calendar organizers. My calendar organizers, I still actually like a hard copy calendar just because I like to see things in front of me. And, you know, like it or not, these things take a dump sometimes, or whatever reason. Sometimes, I mean, here's the key about technology that I think some people tend to forget. Everyone wants to love technology, whether it's the computer, whether it's the phone, the iPad, you know, whatever. But here's something to think about. Technology, it's not if, it's when it will break down, or not maybe break down, but maybe malfunction, or maybe freeze up or something. It will. Hard copy stuff doesn't do that. That's why I'm always a fan of having a plan B, a plan C, and everything else. Yeah, I've got my calendar on here. This is my primary calendar. But my plan B is I back it up to the iCloud. I back it up to an external hard drive. You know, I also have hard copy for certain things. You know, maybe it's overkill, but again, if it's that important, I better make sure that I'm tracking it down. So, you know, time management, everyone always says they're busy. I love when people say in today's world, well, I'm busy, or I didn't get a chance to do that. You know what? We're all busy. No one wants to hear your excuse that you're busy. Trust me. It's overused, and if you can't manage in today's world, if you haven't figured out by now, I'm very blunt, to the point, and frank sometimes. And I know some people get offended by that, and I apologize. But I think I get more compliments from people because they say, hey, Chief, you say it, you tell it like it is. I try to. I mean, I try to be respectful, obviously, when I say these things. So I'm not intending to insult or be offensive, but I want to try to not sugarcoat things. But anyway, time management, we all deal with that. And you know what? It doesn't get any easier when you get on the job. Even if you're working, I got 20 days off a month. Trust me, you'll be just as busy, if not busier, on the job there. But have some form of calendar organizer, because you're going to have to juggle all this stuff, especially when you start applying for fire departments. Schedule your written test, your oral interview, whatever else, because you don't want to, I forgot it, or, hey, Phoenix Fire Department, my bad, I was supposed to show up for an oral interview yesterday, and it looks like I screwed that one up. Yeah, you literally screwed that one up, but try harder next time. Have a nice day. I mean, that's usually how it happens, but find a method. I love this saying that I heard when I started the fire academy at Chabot back in '92. Our instructor, Mike Lipmanchuk, his mentality was, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. Meaning, if something starts at 6:00 p.m., don't be a bell tapper and show up at 5:59 or 6, because you're already late at that point. And we all know those people, whether it's at school, whether it's people at work, maybe your family, your friends. You all probably have those family or friends that if you want them there at 6, you probably tell them, hey, why don't you get here at 5:30, knowing that they're going to probably roll in about 6:00. And that's just life. But again, at the fire department, when we have a strict time schedule, meaning if you're on duty from 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. the next day or 2 days later, when you're rolling in at 8:00 or 7:59, okay, you're not just screwing yourself, but you're screwing your counterparts that are trying to go home to their family and everything else. The key is trying to be early, whether it's your oral interview, whether it's whatever. Just be punctual, have some time management system, because it will backfire at some point. Keep your certs up to date. This is critical for a number of reasons, because I've seen candidates disqualify themselves, excuse me. And let me just go in a rabbit hole for a second. That's a trick, not now because I was thirsty. That's a trick I encourage you to do at an interview, for example. When you're in an interview and you're in that interview for anywhere from 8 to 30 minutes or more, I encourage everybody to bring a bottle of water in with yourself. Some departments may provide water, some may not provide water, but bring your own bottle in. Make sure the cap is on top, because I've seen people spill the bottle and it goes over. You don't want to be that guy or that gal, but bring your water in. None of us are perfect, myself included. Sometimes I find myself, as you haven't figured out by now, going off in tangents, going down rabbit holes. And when you want to find yourself going, you know what, I got to hit the reset button. I got to go back to where I was originally at, because I'm losing the panel. And I'm not saying I'm losing you guys, who knows, can't see it, but do that trick. Sometimes I found myself in oral interviews where I'm going down the wrong path. And here's the thing, when you're going down the wrong path, the oral board, they're not going to help you out there. They're just going to tell you when your time is up and it's time to leave. So nothing says that you can't say, excuse me 1 second. Let me take a drink of water here. I need to hit the reset button. What are they going to do? Say no? Some of my best interviews are when I did that. All right, let's start this from scratch. Focusing back here, blah, blah. I mean, that's knowing yourself very well. So back to disqualifying yourself. It's critical, as I mentioned previously, to read the job flyers, the job announcements, because a lot of those that require things such as driver's license, maybe an EMT or paramedic license, things that have expiration dates, CPAT cards. Now, CPAT cards, when you get your candidate physical ability test card, because you went to a CPAT location, like in California, there's 4 locations, 2 in Northern California, 2 in Southern California. I know each state's different. But when you get your CPAT card, it shows the date you took it, like today, June 20th, today. It doesn't have an expiration date, to the best of my knowledge. Most departments, though, have their own expiration dates. Most departments say your CPAT card must be no later than, say, 6 months, or definitely no later than 12 months. So when you read the fine print on that job announcement, I see a lot of times like, CPAT card must be good for 1 year, up to the time of the oral interview. Now it's June 20th today. Let's say we're the city of San Jose and we're accepting applications. Today is the deadline, June 20th. It was open all last month, and today is the final day to drop your San Jose application off or submit it online. Well, looking at how long the hiring process takes, which I don't know if you realize this, but let's say today was the deadline. Well, it's going to probably take them a week or two just to screen all the applications out, maybe longer because of the pandemic and depending on who's working or not working. So they may have a written test as the first step of the process. Well, if it's June 20th, their written test may be in August. Yeah, it may be that long because they have to determine who qualifies, and then from there, who passes the written test. So if you pass the written test, let's say in August with 70% or better, then you may go to the oral interviews. Well, the oral interviews may not be until September or October, or depending on the size of the department, it could be over the course of a couple of weeks or a couple of months. So even if the interviews are, say, September and October, well, the next step after the interview may be a chief's interview. The chief at that point may bring you farther, and that may be November. And then from there, the background investigations and medical exams and psychological exams may be December, January, February, with the Recruit Academy scheduled to start like in March or April of next year. Yeah, a hiring process usually can take sometimes 4 months all the way up to a year for that, get your first day in the academy. So back to this question is, a lot of departments say your CPAT or your EMT or your paramedic has to be valid, not just maybe at time of application, but also time of appointment, which is usually first day of the academy or after that when you finish the academy online. So there is no excuse with technology out there to put reminders on your phone. There is no excuse to let your driver's license, your EMT, your paramedic, your CPAT, anything that has a date to it expire. Because again, I've seen candidates disqualify themselves because, oh shit, my CPAT card, literally, well, it only expired by a day. I remember a candidate, but it just expired yesterday. Isn't it still good? And I'm like, seriously, dude? Think about it. Whether it's expired one day or 5 years in a day, is it really? No. The line was drawn in the sand. Because we said 1 year, and it's now 1 year and 1 day. Because now, so we got to make an excuse for you. We got to throw you a bone. Okay, we do it for you, and then of course you get the next person. Well, I was 5 days late. What about me? Well, 1 day is different than 5. No, it's not. The line was drawn in the sand. We open up a can of worms. And again, I've seen so many candidates, because they don't keep track of those dates and certifications. Oh shit, I forgot to update my EMT. Or I love this one. We had a candidate, we require people to show their driver's license to prove it's them. That's all it is. When they show up to do their oral interviews, we say, hey, show us your driver's license so we can determine it's you. Because yeah, there have been cases of somebody else showing up to do an oral interview or a written test or something else for somebody else, because maybe that person was not good at written tests. I remember looking at someone's driver's license and I go, dude, your driver's license expired like 3 weeks ago. And our requirement was that you had a valid driver's license. He goes, oh shit, I didn't notice that, chief. He actually said that to me. He goes, oh shit, he's in a suit. Shit, chief, I didn't notice that 3 weeks ago. Oh, that sucks. I go, yeah, it really does suck. He goes, well, so what does that mean, chief? Well, the notification or the application or the announcement said that you had to have a valid driver's license, so it's not valid. But I drove 2 hours up here to get here from Sacramento. Okay, that's not my problem that you can't follow instructions. I'm not trying to be an asshole here, but it's like, you can't follow instructions now. How are you going to be on the fire ground? How are you going to be on the emergency scene? How are you going to be on the firehouse working with others? This is a paramilitary organization where you have to follow instructions, follow orders. You know, yours is not to reason why, yours is to do or die sometimes. I mean, I know that sounds harsh, but we're not fully militaristic, but we're paramilitary. Well, this guy wasn't getting it. And then he's like, okay, well, chief, well, you know what, and I'm thinking to myself, to me, it's not just the expired license. To me, there's bigger problems here. Maybe my brain works differently. First of all, he wasn't obviously aware of the fact that his license was expired. So he obviously wasn't taking personal responsibility or leadership or ownership, whatever we're going to call it. Then he had no remorse at all. He was trying to blame us or make us do him a solid. No. If he's that way now, he's going to be a nightmare on the line when it comes to, let's say, maybe his EMT 2 years from now. Hey, Ron, by the way, your EMT expired. Well, no one reminded me, chief. It's not our job to remind you that your EMT or your driver's license. I mean, I know those are rare cases, but they happen in every department across the country. So please don't be that person, because like I said, it's not your employer's responsibility. When you look at the job announcement and the job description of, say, firefighter, usually it's requirement to possess a driver's license, requirement to possess usually an EMT, requirement to possess whatever other valid license is. Most departments will send out a reminder, but they don't have to. Again, it's your responsibility, because here's the thing. When you're on the job, and I'll give you an example, when one of our paramedics are, when their license expires, they can't work as a paramedic. Well, if they can't work, they're not going to get paid. So what we do for them, and this, I'm not here to be mean, this is not my decision, this is what we've done for years, that most departments do, is that if your paramedic lapses because you forgot to renew your paramedic license, you're on what's called leave without pay. You're on leave without pay, meaning you're not getting paid until you get that paramedic license up to date. That could be a shift, it could be 2 shifts, 3 shifts. Now you can trade with somebody, meaning if you can find somebody else to cover your shift for you, hey, Tom, can you work today while I go get my paramedic license figured out? And then you're not leave without pay, but then you don't get there. Just stay on top of yourself. Most people do, but don't be that person that doesn't. I encourage you to get some buddies involved, good quality buddies. When I say buddies, think about it. The job of the firefighter, fire department, it's teamwork. We are in groups. We are at a firehouse with groups of people, at least 2 people typically in most departments, usually 3, sometimes 4 or more. We get the job done through teamwork. So you got to start picking out good buddies. When I say that, good buddies, we all have those friends, those family members, and you're going, oh my God, they're a POC. I mean, but I love them. They're my buddy. They're my brother, my sister, my father, but oh God, I get it. Find good people that are reliable, quality individuals. Why? It helps reduce costs. Because you think about it, this is one of the benefits of going to a college that offers a fire technology program, because you're going to meet like-minded people. You take that first intro, like I teach intro to fire class at the college. In August, we'll start out with, 40, 50 students like we do every semester. Yeah, we'll only graduate maybe 10 or so, but we'll start with 40 to 50 students. Most of those students are also taking other classes at the college, related to fire. That's your core group. Now some people will drop out, will move out of the area, give up, change their mind, but there'll be a core people that you'll see class after class, especially when you get to EMT, the academy, paramedic school. But the benefit is, like, if let's say San Diego is testing for firefighter and I'm in San Jose, it's either an hour flight on Southwest Airlines or it's about an 8-hour drive, give or take. I mean, they both have costs. They both have time or take time. One's shorter than the other. But the key is, if you're going to drive, it'd be nice to at least split the gas costs and everything else, and have a study partner as well too. But that's the benefit. But don't find flakes. I say that. Pick your buddies carefully, because there's some flakes out there. Oh, hey dude, can I cover you on gas next time? Yeah, sure, dude. Okay, yeah, just cover me on gas next time, or maybe pay for lunch or whatever else or something. And then of course next time comes, hey, can I forgot my wallet again. Can you cover me this time? There probably comes a time of, what's the old saying, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, or fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. There comes a point where it's like, dude, just pick your buddies carefully, because you'll find your true quality partners or lack thereof. I mentioned earlier, it took me 4.5 years to become a firefighter, and I'm not bragging. Some get hired a lot earlier, some get hired a lot later, some give up in the process with less time or more time. My point for you is, you got to be in this for the long haul. What that means is that you got to have a plan B, plan C. I'm not saying in a defeatist manner. You don't want to be too cocky or too arrogant. I mean, I remember when I was a student firefighter with the Oakland Fire Department, one of my classmates, we were both students. We were both taking classes at Chabot College. We've both been through the academy, had our EMT. We're both testing. And I remember we were assigned to opposite shifts at a station. We were assigned to one of the stations in Oakland. I was on C shift and he was, I think, on B shift. So we'd see each other in the morning at shift change. And I remember asking him a question, because we're both testing. We're not getting anywhere. We've been at this for a couple of years. And I'm like, hey, dude, what's your backup plan if you don't get hired as a firefighter? And, I was working at Long Strugs. I mean, that was not my dream career or job. I mean, it was paying the bills, but, I wanted to be a firefighter. And I remember him saying, Steve, there is no backup plan. It's be a firefighter or nothing. And I'm like, that's pretty bold. And I appreciated his honesty. I appreciated it wasn't arrogant. It was just a lot of confidence. And he became a firefighter. He worked his way all the way up to deputy chief for a Bay Area department, recently retired. had an awesome career, but he was full of confidence and he wasn't cocky or arrogant. And that confidence helped him out through that oral interview. I mean, I wasn't on his oral interviews, obviously, but I can only imagine, because like I said, I got to work with him over the years, helping our departments out with promotional exams and teaching we taught at the college together. He was just a very self-confident, but not cocky or arrogant individual. I mean, did he have a plan B or C in mind if he never got hired? I don't know. Maybe that was just his forward-facing conversation, because I know a lot of people don't show their cards. They sometimes say one thing but think another. I don't know, but you know what? He was confident enough and it worked for him. You know, there was no, I mean, and I say that because I see a lot of candidates in oral interviews. There's a lot of them lack confidence. A lot of them, you can tell, lack any career planning and any goal setting and stuff like that. I mean, this guy put his mind to it. But I also think it's always good to have a backup plan. If nothing else, hey, shit happens. Life throws you curveballs sometimes. I mean, let's say even if you get hired, okay, you get hired, you busted your butt for a couple of years, you took whatever, 20, 30, 50 tests, you got hired. Well, the goal is to obviously spend 20, 30, 40 years until you retire and hopefully be healthy to enjoy a safe, healthy retirement. But in most departments, 2/3 of the firefighters and police officers are retiring out on medical disabilities. And those are the facts that are out there. Google firefighters, police officers, medical disabilities. You'll see numbers of 50 to 60 some percent, give or take, of most firefighters and cops retire out on disabilities. And that's at least around the state that I've seen. I can't speak nationwide, but I think it's a very high number, at least typically 50%. Don't quote me on that one, but I say that, medical disability. So it's a physical job. I mean, maybe when you're in your 20s and your 30s, and this is not meant to be discriminatory because I'm in my early 50s, but things I could do in my teens and 20s and 30s are not maybe the same things I can do today. I mean, I think I'm still, knock on wood, healthy and strong. I could be better, probably better physically fit, but I try my best. Our bodies are not the same. So again, I mean, have a plan B, have a plan C, but also be confident about what you're doing. And more importantly, focus on your retirement. Yeah, 30, 40 years will be here before you know it. Like I said, I can retire out in a couple of years with full benefits if I want to. And I'm like, what the hell happened to time? It seemed like yesterday I was in your shoes wanting to become a firefighter. And it still seems like yesterday. And the next thing you know, it's like, well, in 2 years I can be fully maxed out, meaning I'm working for free at that point. It's like, wow. I mean, just weird. I mean, it's not bad. It just means I'm getting older and time flies fast. So enjoy the ride, but also have plan B, plan C. Now, next point, be willing to move back home to make sacrifices if possible. Now, think about that. When I was starting out to become a firefighter, I was planning ahead, obviously. I knew I had to probably become an EMT, get my firefighter one, which I did at the college, like I said. But I also knew that, you know what, if I'm not getting hired by that point, which I was taking tests from day one, I probably need to go to paramedic school because that'll really drastically reduce my competitors, which it did. But I had to pay, I think, upwards of $10,000 for paramedic school. It was a private company. And one of the future episodes, I'll talk more about paramedic schools, but I was working full-time at Long's Drugs at the time, making $35,000 a year in a management position. I had to take a $20,000 a year pay cut to go from 35 to 15K a year. And I had to step out of my management position because I couldn't work 5 days a week as a manager. I had to have a flexible schedule. Why flexible? Because I needed to go to school. I needed to take tests. I wanted to be able to tell my boss at Long's Drugs, hey, by the way, can I have the morning off because I got an interview wherever and I got to go to the interview. I'll be back at like 1 o'clock. And, you know, he didn't like to hear that at Long's because I was no longer a career employee in management, but hey, I'd rather be open and transparent. But I also had to move back home as well too, because I couldn't afford living on my own. Hey, you know what? Life sucks sometimes. And you know what? I love my parents, but when you're on your own for a while, it's not fun moving back because you enjoy your autonomy, even as an adult, but you do it. Sometimes you have to step back to step forward is my point. So just think of it as a temporary setback. I'll just leave it at that. So sometimes you're not stepping back. Sometimes it's a sideways step, but yeah, you want to move forward, but sometimes you have to step back, you know, and I really can't stress enough ensuring your family's on board with things. And if you're single, it's a lot easier. But let's say you have a significant other, maybe not married, but you have a significant other, longtime girlfriend, boyfriend, Maybe you have kids, maybe you've been married, maybe you have a significant other partner, then you're not married, but you've still been together. I mean, you have that home unit. You got to have that talk with them, because it's your perception of what a firefighter does in the job may be drastically different from what their perception is. Meaning, you may think, oh yeah, I'm going to be a firefighter and ride the fire engine and go inside, fight fires, save lives, do all that cool bitchin' stuff that firefighters do. And then you talk to your family and they're like, you want to do what? No, no, we don't want you to do that. You know, you want to make sure they're on board. So, I mean, better now than later, because the last thing you want to do is have to turn down a job, but make sure they're on board, and you got to have the talk. Something else, once you give up, you give up. I've known people to give up after a couple tests. I've known people to give up after 20 tests. I've known people to give up after 100 tests. But on the flip side, I've known people to get hired after 100 tests. I've known people to get hired after one test, which is rare, but usually, 10 tests, maybe 20 tests. And you may go, 100 tests? How the hell could you? I couldn't do it for that long. I mean, that's like 10 years of testing. But you know what? That's tenacity, that's persistence, that's someone that wants something bad enough they're not willing to give up on their dream. But the thing is, as I tell, because people go, well, Chief, I don't know if I should throw in the towel. I can't make that choice for you. You got to weigh the pros and the cons. Chief, I've been at it, for a year. I've been at it for a year and a half, and I haven't been hired yet. Yeah, no shit. You and everybody else has been at it for a year and a half. How many tests have you taken, dude? Man, I've taken like 3 tests. Wow. So let me guess, you made it to the background investigation on all those, right? And of course, usually like, huh? No, I didn't pass the written test in this one. This one I passed the oral interview and I made the list. I was number 1,535 in the list. And then this one here, I was number, 25 in the list, but they didn't hire me. Oh, you're number 25 in the list and they didn't hire you. How many did they hire? Well, they hired 1. Okay. And that's very common. Yeah, they may hire 1 or 2 or 3, and there's hundreds or thousands on the list. There's 1 or 2 happy people. And there's, of course, everybody else that's miserable. That's life. So personally, someone like that, I think, has bigger issues, because if that's their attitude of being bitter, they're probably bringing that bitterness into oral interviews and not the type of person that a department wants to hire, just my opinion. But here's the point. You may have to give up. And I say that, and I don't want to be pessimistic or negative. I always try to be positive, glass half full, not half empty. But I've known people that it's like, Steve, I'm in my 40s. My family's ready to divorce my ass because I've been testing for the last 10 years. I'm not making much money. I'm at my current job right now because I'm having to take all the time off to go to school. And I spent all this money to get my 2-year degree. I went to paramedic school and I can't even get a job with AMR on a private ambulance. Like I said, my wife's ready to divorce me. She says I need to have a job right now that pays the bills because, our house is ready to get foreclosed, blah, blah. Our kids are not being, fed properly. Well, I'm not in your shoes. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but one of the sayings you've probably heard and hopefully practiced by is family first. Well, if family truly is first, I mean, it's great that they supported you up to this point, but there probably comes a time too where you're not going to change their opinion, and maybe you need to do what's right for the family. And you know what? Maybe you got to throw the towel in. I know it sucks, but what are your options at this point? To say, screw you guys, divorce my ass, honey, kids, I'll see you, whatever, what is it? 50% of the time, if I'm lucky, I'll show you when I'm a firefighter. Okay, you won. Yeah, I mean, what did you really win? So again, a lot of it talks about making sure your family's on board, but try to make sure they're on board and try to make sure you're setting everybody up for success, including yourself. Another key point here, volunteering. And I say volunteering. Don't think you have to be a volunteer firefighter. Everyone thinks, I talk to so many people, Chief, I can't find any volunteer fire experience. Right, because there's not a lot of departments that have volunteers, especially in major metropolitan areas like in the San Francisco Bay Area. We're at pretty much it's all paid fire departments. There's very few volunteer departments, let alone departments that have volunteers within their paid members. Now, many departments have what they call programs where they allow people to volunteer their time, but maybe not in the true fashion of a volunteer firefighter that's responding on a fire engine to calls or responding in their car, meeting the fire engine. That's more of the rural areas. Most of the United States is volunteer firefighters because most of the United States is more rural areas than not. But don't think you have to be a volunteer firefighter. Like I said, some departments call them reserves, some call them auxiliaries, cadets, explorers, lots of different names. I mean, more and more cities, counties have, and not just the fire department, but the police department, have volunteer positions if you do your homework and your research. They just may not be the volunteer you wanted, meaning that you're not riding on the fire engine or getting to go to fires to fight fire and save lives. But you know what? We're not fighting fire and saving lives on a daily basis anyway. But the key is it's volunteer. But don't think you have to do that. There's a lot of different volunteer opportunities. And I'll talk about some here in a second, but back to time management. I hear from people so much, I don't have time to spend to volunteer my time. I work full time and I got a family, going to school. I can't I can't volunteer. And it seems like everyone thinks they have to spend a full day of 8 hours or so volunteering. Yeah, to me, it's nice if you can find an 8-hour block to volunteer or 12-hour block, because that's 8 hours or 12 hours on your resume. And then you do it a couple times, it adds up. But here's something to think about. 24 hours in a day, 24 times 7, do the math. I think it's 168 hours in a week. Yeah, you got to sleep. I get that. Sleep's important. Yeah, you got to work probably 40 hours a week. Yeah, you got to spend family time. But can you at least find 1 hour a month? 1 hour a month, maybe 2 hours, maybe 5 hours, but 1 hour a month. That's 15 minutes a week. Hopefully you can do a little more than that. But think about it. 1 hour a month is not a lot of time today, but it's something better than nothing. And then next month it's 2 hours. In 8 months, it's 8 hours of volunteer time. Again, it may not be a lot, but it's better than nothing. So if you want to be a volunteer in anything, there's creative ways, especially with the internet and in the computer. You can even do maybe Skype sessions. There's creative ways to volunteer. City, maybe for your city, for your county, for private companies. Everyone's looking for volunteers, especially in today's world. Now, not having any volunteer experience can be a kiss of death, because more and more departments are asking that question on the oral board. So tell us what you do, Steve, for community service. That's a good question. And I hate it when people say that's a good question, because no shit, Sherlock, they're all good questions. I don't mean that sarcastically, but if the department is asking you questions, we hope they're good questions. But anyway, well, that's a good question. But you know what? I'm too busy to volunteer. I work full time. I got a family. I got to put food on the table. I got to go to school. Got to sleep. I don't have time to volunteer. Oh, okay. Put yourself in the oral board shoes or the fire chief's shoes. Well, you know what? Don't tell me what you can't do or what you're too busy for. Tell me what you can do. And those people that have positive can-do attitudes are the ones that move forward the process, because they're willing to do what it takes to get it done by trying to at least hopefully keep a balance as well. There are some departments like the city of Oakland, and every fire chief, right now they're in between fire chiefs, but my understanding from every fire chief that's been the fire chief of Oakland, Darren White, Teresa Reed, the ones before her, always asked Oakland candidates during the chief's interview, the second level interview, so what have you done for community service, meaning volunteer, in the city of Oakland? And I love hearing candidates say that, because the smart candidates are the ones that have already visited Oakland firehouses. So they've already talked to Oakland firefighters. They've already heard from the Oakland firefighters, especially those that were recently hired. Hey, if you make it to the chief's interview, you better have volunteer experience and Oakland volunteer experience in your resume, because they're going to ask you the questions. The smart candidates are already preparing ahead and well, Chief, I'm glad you asked that question. Not, that's a good question, Chief. Chief, I'm glad you asked that question. I've actually got, for the last, not 2 weeks, because you don't want to be a last minute Larry or Lisa. You want to be someone that's been doing things for a while to show a track record. Actually, Chief, because the city of Oakland has been my dream fire department for as long as I can remember, I've been focusing my efforts on Oakland. And one of those ways, after talking to Oakland firefighters for all the firehouses I visited over the years, everyone pretty much told me I better have some Oakland volunteer experience. So given that, for the last 2 years, I've been volunteering, doing whatever it is for the city of Oakland, maybe for a private nonprofit corporation, or maybe a private business or something in the city limits of Oakland, waiting for that question. I'm glad you asked that question. So I've done whatever, 100 hours doing this, giving back to the community, helping disadvantaged people here, helping this, provide this, homeless folks, whatever. That chief is going to be smiling and just say, you get it. versus the candidate that goes, well, chief, I'm just too busy to do this stuff. Yeah, no, and I'm too busy to hire you. Sorry. You should have done your homework and research by visiting the firehouses, talking to our firefighters, and if they liked you, they would have told you what you needed to do. Now let's say, well, hell, Steve, I live in Sacramento, 2 hours away from Oakland, or even worse, I live in Texas, a 3-hour plane ride away from Oakland. Well, doesn't mean that you can't get hired in Oakland, but again, if you've done your homework and your research on that department, you would have already known, crap, when it comes to the chief's interview, I better have volunteer experience. And you know what? I've heard of stories of that where out-of-state candidates, think about it, those with time management skills, planning skills, things I've discussed already, you live in Texas. Well, you're going to have to fly out to Oakland if you want to work for Oakland a couple of times, because the written test, like I said, maybe in August, the oral interview maybe in September, October. You're going to probably have to come back maybe for a chief's interview, a background investigation. Not everything's online. I mean, maybe it will be given the coronavirus pandemic, but let's hopefully that's not the case, because some of the stuff's online right now. But anyway, you're going to have to make multiple trips out there. And during those multiple trips, hopefully you're visiting firehouses while you're out here. So if you're smart, maybe schedule half a day for firehouse visits, and maybe the afternoon, so in the morning, maybe I'll schedule a visit with station 23, station 20, maybe station 18. Then in the afternoon, I've got a 4-hour volunteer session I'm doing for Big Brothers, Big Sisters, or whatever city, or the city of Oakland doing this. You want it bad enough, you can get creative about it. And those are the candidates that we're looking to hire, because if you can be that creative, manage your time, plan your day, plan your schedule, you're going to be probably a pretty darn good firefighter that's going to be low maintenance and staying out of trouble. So volunteer experience is critical, and good segue to staying out of trouble. Today's world, it's very interesting with the internet out there where people can Google ourselves. If you haven't done so already, Google yourself and see what comes up. You may be shocked. You may be surprised. You may have that, oh shit. Man, that was like, I had one person that I remember, one of my students goes, Chief, when I Google myself, I see something like on MySpace. I think it was MySpace. I'm going, MySpace even still in existence today? Well, I don't know if MySpace is in existence, but the website is still there, and the stuff that he was posting back when he was in high school is still there. And now he's like late 20s, trying to be a mature professional adult, wanting to become a firefighter. And he's like, oh shit, that don't look too good. I go, no, it don't. And that's like, when you Google his name, it's like on I think usually page 1 or page 2. And I'm like, oh my God, dude. So Google your name, because you never know what's going to show up. And I know maybe things are more liberal or more lax today. I'll use an example. If you had a question that was asked in the early 90s when I was testing was, so, what drugs have you used? Have you smoked weed? And, if you had pretty much said anything about drug use, including even marijuana back in the 90s, it would be like, you're disqualified. Maybe unless you said, well, it was 10 years ago I tried it in high school and now I'm 25 and I haven't done it since. Okay, no big deal. But if you had smoked marijuana or other drugs on a regular basis 20, 30 years ago, it would have been like, thank you for playing. Have a nice day. Today's world, though, marijuana is legal. And drugs in general are more accepting. Well, it doesn't mean you can still use those things on the job. Even if marijuana is legal, departments still have the right to follow the federal law. And I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV. Do your own homework. But even though things are still legal, departments still have the ability to say, no, you won't be using any marijuana or even tobacco products on or off duty. They can do that. But anyway, trouble in general, I'm looking at bigger pictures. So there may be things that are more mainstream today that may not be a big issue. Obviously, if you're dealing drugs and you're not a legalized marijuana distributor, that's one thing. But if you're maybe illegally dealing drugs, that's a whole different issue. But I say that because I see more candidates get killed during a background or a internet search. I'm not internet search, but things that tie back to your background and everything else. I hear about those stories all the time. I get calls from people around the country. It's like, Chief, you don't know me, but I'm from whatever, North Carolina or Florida or Texas, and I just got told by the department they're not hiring me, and it's probably because of this. It's like, well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. And I get it. Maybe the good news is it's so hard to get good quality people that have never used any drugs, maybe that have never used alcohol under 21. It's okay to drink if you're over legal age, but trying to find people that weren't in trouble when they're younger. Think about your actions. Now, you can't change the past. You can try to do your best to make up for the past. And when I hear people say, well, Chief, 10 years ago, I got arrested. I was in high school. I did something stupid. I got in a fight and I got arrested for, beating the shit out of somebody. Okay, what happened then? Did you do jail time? No, I didn't do jail time, but I got arrested. I was 18 years old. It was stupid. I'm 28 now. Well, you know what? To me, what helps things, when I talk to background investigators to find out what helps candidates, one of our background investigators in the past used to say, what helps people is time, distance, and shielding. Sort of if you're taking hazmat classes, you learn how do you prevent yourself from getting exposed to the hazmat? Time, distance, and shielding. So this one investigator goes, hey, the longer it's been since the bad thing you did, the better. Meaning if you did something at 18, you got arrested, but now you're 19 or 20, that's not a lot of time that's gone by to prove that you won't do the same thing again, or convince us that you won't do the same thing again. The longer the time is, especially 5 years or more, and more importantly, the shielding or the distance, meaning you haven't done the same thing twice, and you've learned from that mistake, and you've proven to be even better through your actions. But if you say, well, yeah, I got popped for a DUI at 18, but then I got popped for a DUI at 20, and then at 22 and 24, but I'm 28 now. I'm sober for the last 4 years. Good for you. Probably too fresh, too soon to take a chance on you. Nothing personal. So time, distance, and shielding. And here's that chance. Now, especially since you're watching this, is it safe to say you want to be a firefighter? I think it's safe to say that you've made the decision you want to be a firefighter at this point. Something that you did maybe in high school or junior high, if you're maybe still in high school, or maybe did in college, or maybe did 5 years ago in a different life that you want to get behind you, is one thing. But now that you've made the choice to become a firefighter, realize it can really be held against you. Meaning, let's say right now, let's say you're in the middle of an EMT program, or you're in the middle of taking a college class, or you're in the middle of whatever Oakland's testing process. Think about this. Let's say you get a DUI now. If you get arrested or get a DUI or get something right now while you're in the process of becoming a firefighter, what does that demonstrate to the department, the fire chief? It's one thing to say, well, Chief, that was 5 years ago when I was in high school. I was young and I was immature. Look what I've done since then. Yeah, I had some challenges. I had some issues, but I've cleaned my act up. Versus, 2 years ago or last year, there's a saying out there, the best predictor of future behavior is, guess what? Past behavior. So the key is the past, hopefully you've changed. But let's say right now you get a DUI, or maybe you've been sheltered in place for the last 3 months and you've been going stir crazy at home because you can't go out. Now, one of those states that you live in, the bars have reopened. Great, I got to go out. I haven't been able to see my buddies. This happened in Florida. I was just hearing about the other day that these 12 friends would ever go out to a bar in, I think it was Florida, and all of a sudden they all get diagnosed with COVID-19. I don't know if it'll kill them or whatever, but okay, yeah, they got COVID-19. Imagine, let's say they got into a bar fight because they've been cooped up at home all the time. Imagine that one person that goes to jail is a wannabe firefighter. Maybe they're just in EMT school right now. Maybe they're getting ready for EMT school, or maybe they're just taking a fire class, or not even taking fire classes. They just are getting ready to apply for the fire department, or they're in the process getting ready for their oral interview. That shows a major red flag when you're already in the process that you didn't recognize that, you know what? I should have walked away. I'm not saying don't go out to bars. Go have fun. If you can't control your alcohol, that's a whole other issue. But many people can control their alcohol and control their emotions. But if you find yourself getting ready to get into a fight, most of the time, walk away. Because that's going to be a question that's going to be probably thrown at you. It's like, well, you got in this fight. Why'd you get in the fight? Well, he was eyeing my girlfriend, he was giving her the stink eye, and everything else, or he was checking her out like this, and everything else. And I had to show him, I don't take that crap. Wow. You've got some anger management issues, dude. And we know those people. Versus, you know what? Walk away. Well, my pride, my ego would not let me walk away from that. Hey, dude, I'm around my buddies. I'm around my family. I can't do that. They're going to laugh at me. Well, what is this, the saying goes, better to live another day or see another day than, who knows what. So I know some people have a challenge with that because pride and ego, but you know what? Your action should have been, hey, dude, it ain't worth it. Sorry, have a nice day. Oh, you walking away from here, you you chicken, you wussy, you whatever. Hey, whatever, dude, have a good day. I mean, take the high road. Because again, it's going to come up in your background. It will, and it may disqualify you. So, and even when you're on the job, you do this type of stuff. It can cost you your career and your job when you're on the job. So this is not just, fun stuff. It's also school, work, home, but try to stay out of trouble. No one's perfect. No one can walk on water. I don't expect you to walk on water. I can't walk on water in my pool back. I'll fall in. But time, distance, and shielding. If you do make mistakes now, be able to own the mistakes, take responsibility for the mistakes, realize they may cost you a job or may take you longer to get hired, but that's the cost doing business, and be able to make sure that you can demonstrate to a department, yeah, I made a mistake. And more importantly, I learned from the mistake. And this is what I've done since then to make sure that same mistake doesn't happen again. So think about those things. Now I've touched on this. It's a full-time job, getting the job. And what that means, or career, what that means is that, yeah, your social life may suffer. If you're a total social butterfly, total extrovert, if you don't know what introvert versus extrovert means, Google that stuff, figure it out. There's nothing wrong. I'm more of an introvert. I love hanging around people. I love doing things, but I'm also an introvert, which I can be in front of thousands of people speaking, and I can be in front of one or not. I mean, whatever reason I land in both camps, and I'm good with that. But for some that are more extroverted, they're struggling right now, and they just now being socially distanced and everything else. But think about that. If you're one of those people that has to go out all the time, has to be with friends, well, think about it. To become a firefighter, you may have to go to school, you may have to study, you may have to focus on, preparing for an oral interview, blah, blah, blah. It may make your social life suffer. That's why I said earlier, you got to prepare your family, prepare your friends. Here's the thing. If they're truly your friends, they'll stick with you. Now for family, this is the challenging part. I don't want to say if they're truly family, they'll stick with you, because that's a slippery slope, because every situation is different. But your family members, again, let them go in eyes wide open of like, listen, honey, if I want to become a firefighter, I got to get my butt to EMT school. Or maybe you say, you know what, I got to get to paramedic school. And, so what is that? And no one has a clue usually what paramedic school is. Honey, that's 1,000 hours. It's probably going to be a year to year and a half. I'm going to have to go down to part-time status like Steve did, and I can't work a full-time job. It's going to require me to do a ton of studying. It's going to be tougher than any college I've ever had before, but I need to do this for the next year to year and a half as a paramedic, because that's going to drastically improve my chances of becoming a firefighter, because there's less competitors. I mean, yeah, you go from hundreds of thousands to double digits. Even in big departments, they're lucky to get 100 at the most paramedics applying. So you have great odds as a paramedic, but it isn't easy going through the program. It's stressful, more more divorces, separations, breakups occur. I think of our 25 or so that were in paramedic school, probably half suffered divorces or breakups. And you know what? I look back at those. Some of those were probably were not done because of paramedic school. It's probably because the individuals didn't prepare their family for what they were getting into. Maybe they didn't know, but they didn't prepare them. Or maybe those family members, I mean, you can't change your kids, obviously, because they're yours. You take ownership for their lives. But girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, wives, you know what? You really test the true definition of relationship when you have to sort of suffer for benefit in the long run. And I say, step back to go ahead. Here's a good example of it. You sitting down and say, honey, here's the thing. Yeah, I'm going to have to be in paramedic school for the next year and a half. And then from there, I may have to go get a job as a paramedic on an ambulance for another 6 months, a year before I get on the fire department. So this could be about a 2-year venture, but you may not see a lot of me. I'm going to be pissy. I'm going to be a pain in the ass to be around because I'm going to be so stressed. But think about our long-term future. If I can get through this and I can get hired in the fire department, there's 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 years of a career, as long as I don't do anything stupid, that I can have that'll be, for the most part, very stable with a decent pay, 10 days a month, great benefits for our family, and give us a better lifestyle than we ever had. If you're willing to do this for the next 2 years, it's not going to be easy. You know what? I bet you may have a lot of family members say, you know what? Okay, but you got 4 years. Or, hey, I'll be with you to hell and back. I mean, again, prepare your family and friends, but it's a full-time job. You just don't have the badge fall from the sky. I talked a lot about being organized. You have to be organized, time management. When I say full-time job, getting the job or career, you always have to look for opportunities. You can't wait for a fire department to reach out to you and say, hey, by the way, we're the San Jose Fire Department. We're going to be testing next week. You want to join us? Yeah, most departments post on social media, maybe post on the internet, but you've got to be actively looking for opportunities to volunteer, opportunities to network, opportunities to build and maintain relationships, opportunities to apply for positions, opportunities to get ahead in your career. And that's why it's so critical of letting others know that you want to be a firefighter. So hopefully they're helping you out. Hey, dude, did you hear that Oakland's testing this week? Or did you hear that Seattle's testing this week? And not just waiting for them to tell you, but you also doing your homework, going to city websites, fire department websites, paying for services that notify you on tests. Another key point, it takes money to make money. What that simply means is that, yeah, I had to pay $10,000 to go to paramedic school, and I had to save up for it, and I had to borrow a lot of money from my parents to do that. I had to pay them back. It was not fun. Again, I had to move back. So not just taking a $20,000 a year pay cut from Long's Drugs, so I was already losing $20,000 a year there, but I was also now having to pay back a lot of money, $10,000 for paramedic school, lost income, and there was no guarantee I was going to get a job. But to me, that $10,000 was well spent, because when I got hired on the fire department, most departments will give you an extra bonus, not bonus, differential, as we call it, on the fire department. So if you're a paramedic in most departments, it's typically 5, 10, or 15% more than your normal firefighter salary as a paramedic incentive, as they call it, or differential. So that $10,000 I spent, I made it up. I don't know how long it took me to make it up, but I made it up in a couple of years by the extra 10% I got on my paycheck every week, as well as the extra overtime opportunities that I got, because most of fire departments, they never have enough paramedics. They're always short paramedics. Paramedics are usually the rank that's working the most overtime in most departments. So you'll make that up pretty quickly there. But when I talk about saving up, is you're going to need it. I say needing it to drive to tests, to find tests, to maybe go to school, pay for your EMT, pay for your paramedic, pay the gas money to drive down to Fresno to take a test, to pay for testing notification services, maybe to subscribe to Fire Engineering Magazine or Firehouse Magazine. Nothing comes cheap. And before you raise the BS flag, this is for any line of work. Find me a line of work, government, private industry, that doesn't require you to bust your butt to get a job. Most of the time, you're going to have to bust your butt, do your homework, and put some hard work, sacrifice, and effort into obtaining the job. It really isn't any different than anything else. Be prepared to make financial sacrifices, like I've touched on right there. Maybe when I moved back home, I also was like, oh God, my parents didn't allow me to live rent free. They still made me pay some money there. So I still had to pay some stuff there, and I still had bills to pay. But be prepared to make financial sacrifice. That's why it's so critical to try to save as much as you can, because you may need it at some point. I've talked about stepping back to step ahead. Like I mentioned, I quit a full-time job to go back to part-time. There was no guarantee I passed paramedic school, because not everyone that starts it passes it, or even if I did pass it, become a firefighter. I'd like to think I had that attitude and persistence and tenacity to eventually get it, which I believe I had. I'm just fortunate I got hired in the Bay Area, where I was born and raised in, so it worked out well. But there's a job out there for you somewhere. It may be locally, it may be states away, across the country away, but there's jobs out there if you're willing to stick it out for them. Next point here, understanding diversity. And I say that because in today's world, obviously, depending on where you're from, especially the state that you're in, California, for example, is an extremely diverse state. And it's not just a male or female gender-based, it's also ethnicity and every other thing that goes along with diversity. We live in a very diverse world right now. Now, it's a very political, polarizing concept and discussion that's going on out there right now, but the discussion is here. And it's interesting seeing people take sides, and I'm not here to make this a political webinar. Do the right thing, and if you're doing the right things in life, treating people fairly, treating people with respect, treating people the same way you'd want to be treated. I think those basic rules that we should have been taught when we were little kids, that should be the way life works, but I know it's not. And I know we have a lot of things we need to deal with in our world right now to make things better. But regarding diversity, it's not uncommon to have departments. In the early 90s, I had departments virtually every fire department asks questions about diversity, meaning, so Steve, what's your definition of diversity? Sometimes they say, what's your definition of cultural diversity? What's your definition of diversity? How do you feel about diversity? And don't just say, well, oh, I support diversity. You know, I'm a big supporter of diversity. Okay, that's a very shallow answer. That's like saying, what's your greatest strength, Steve? Well, motivated. You really didn't give us much to go off of. So you better understand the concept and be able to discuss the concept in a professional, non-biased, non-discriminatory manner, because more and more departments, I mean, think about this right now. Imagine yourself being a police chief. I wouldn't want the job of police chief, or even, I respect what police chiefs do. I respect what police officers do, law enforcement professionals do. I couldn't do that job. I just, very challenging. It's almost a no-win job. There's definitely, you know, and there's a whole nother discussion point right there that I'm not trying to pick sides on, but think of this. Imagine being a police chief. You're already under the microscope to hire good quality candidates. You don't want to hire bad apples. No one wants to hire bad apples. So now you're a police chief trying to pick the best of the best. Law enforcement agencies in general have a tough time getting people just to step up. Number one, they struggle just to get people to apply. And then from there, okay, yeah, we got X amount of applicants. How many of those have bad backgrounds? I mean, a lot of them do. I mean, just like a lot of people that apply for the fire department. But anyway, you're a police chief. You think you're going to ask a question about diversity in today's world, especially big cities, larger departments, you know it's going to be there. And I think fire departments, you're going to continue to see those questions, because any department head, police chief, fire chief, any elected official, such as a city council member or city manager, town manager, whatever you call the person that runs the city, the town, the county, it's probably one of the biggest issues on their plates today is that their local public governmental agency and fire and police, which usually make up 50 to 75% of the workforce for most cities, are not diverse enough. So given that, you're going to probably see lots more questions. So understand the term, and more importantly, be able to talk about it in a sincere, respectful manner, because you're going to have those questions posed at you, you know, and also understand your background, how you're going to fit in and how you're going to be an asset, you know. And diversity is a lot of different things. There's a lot of different meanings. I'm not here to give you a class on it because I'm not an expert in it, but it's, you know, you don't want to be I remember asking the question years ago. And so tell us about your understanding of diversity and how diverse our department is. And I remember one candidate goes, well, this was a guy that totally did not get it. He goes, oh, you've got a very diverse department of community. Right now, there's your fire department serves, you know, you have wildland area, you have some high rises, you have some, you know, a lot of commercial buildings, residential buildings, you've got, you know, the hills, the flatlands. And it's like, okay, that is diverse area that we serve, but that's not really what we were looking for. We were looking at demographics. We were looking for, you know, how to best serve the community, not be. So, I mean, diversity can mean a lot of things, but understand the concept here, it's, you know, related to obviously people and us serving the community the best of our abilities. You know, we're spending the taxpayer dollars, and, you know, they typically want a community that or a department that reflects their community. Lucky 13, keep yourself in tip-top shape. That should be pretty simple. You know, physical fitness, this is why some recruits get released during recruit academies, you know, not necessarily college academies, but full-time recruit academies. Because think about it, you're in the academy now for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, depending on the department. Every day is physical activity. And if you didn't have a great workout program to begin with, I mean, most departments are now doing physical fitness in some capacity, either in the morning first thing or at the end of the day, sometimes an hour a day, which is great. You know, a combination of maybe running, cardiovascular stuff, physical, you know, weight training, stretching, yoga, whatever else there. But when you've been in the academy every single day, it's exhausting. And that's why you've got to be in great shape to begin with. So I'm not a physical fitness expert, but I do know it's typically the number one reason firefighters are getting injured or killed, because they're not in the best shape they probably should be in. You know, don't want to be a hater, but you know what do they say? Your body's your temple, and it's up to you to keep it in shape. You know, many in the US, not just firefighters, are not in shape. I mean, it doesn't take, you know, rocket scientists to figure that one out. And again, it is what it is. I know the truth hurts to some people, but I know I can do a better job working out. I'm doing a better job, I think, today, knock on wood. But It's hard, but you got to keep yourself in shape because it's a physical job, especially the older you get. Like I said, I'm in my early 50s. I got to try even harder to stay in shape. It just not as easy as when I was in my 20s or 30s. All right, key point number 14, have a solid work and personal background to offer. Just some key points here is, clean up your loose ends right now. When I say loose ends, I mean, if you have any unfinished degrees, get your degrees finished up, because I know there's nothing wrong with having an unfinished degree, but you want to show commitment. You want to show dedication. If you tell me that your greatest strength is commitment or dedication, but then I look and you've got 5 different colleges you've been to and you haven't finished a degree at either, you're telling me you're committed and you're dedicated, but you can't seem to finish what you started here. Seriously? Oh, well, I was moving. Make excuses here, but again, try to clean up loose ends now. Not necessarily like degrees, but especially financial, because when we talk about background investigations, they're going to look into your financial, your credit history. So if you've had bad credit history, try to improve upon that stuff. Pay off any outstanding loans that you may have. Pay off any bills as possible. I mean, you may go, why does that matter to become a firefighter? Well, it does. We'll talk more about backgrounds in a future episode, but try to clean up your loose ends now, because we're going to dig into it. I touched on earlier about things you've done maybe in the past. Hey, you know what? When it comes to a background investigation, where people screw up is usually they don't list the facts out there, meaning the background packet is 15, 20, 25 pages. If you go to my website, chabotfire.com, the free stuff link, scroll down, there's actually a background investigation packet in there. It's just filling in the blanks. Well, what the background investigator is doing is they're just trying to see, are you honest? Are you accurate? Are you professional? Are you leaving gaps? Are you leaving holes? Because they're looking for inconsistencies. That's why your background better match your application and better match your history. I mean, so that's why we all make mistakes, but you got to be able to say, hey, you know what? I made a mistake. I screwed up. This is what I've learned from it. This is what I'll do to make sure the same thing doesn't happen again. And that's usually all they're looking for. Again, we know no one's perfect, but you better be able to explain mistakes. Here's a good example. Let's say on the background packet, it says list every accident you've ever been involved with, car accident, vehicle accident. And let's say you forget about one of the accidents. Well, guess what the background investigator is going to do? They're going to run a Department of Motor Vehicles report on you. They will. They're going to verify it. And they go, well, Steve, on your accident record from the DMV, which that is correct, right? It says there's 5 accidents, but you only listed 3. Why didn't you list these 2? Oh, man, sorry, dude, I forgot about those. You forgot about those? This is your background investigation. What do you think the background investigator is going to be thinking about for now every other section in that packet? They're going to be going, well, okay, I just forgot to mention those. What else did you forget to mention? And that's when the little light goes on the background investigator's head. I mean, it's not that do you fail because you didn't list those? You didn't follow instructions, but you may not fail, but then it's just that level of doubt, or that shadow of a doubt in their head of going, there's something off about this. Then God forbid there's something else where they say list your work history. And then of course they talk to your former employer. Let's say you worked at the grocery store, and you said that you quit the grocery store on October 1st, 2019. So October 1st, 2019, you said you quit the grocery store to go work at another employer. Okay, no big deal. That's what you put in your background investigation pack. October 1st, your last day, 2019. But let's say now the background investigator, which he or she will do, is call up that grocery store and say, hey, by the way, did Steve Prisbrowski work for you guys? Yes. Okay. Steve says his title was this. He was a clerk cashier. Yes, that was his title. Steve says he made X amount of money per hour. Yes, that is correct. Steve says he worked there from this date to this date. No, he didn't work till October 1st. He worked till September 1st, or maybe August 30th, or even not just October 1st, the day prior, September 30th. September 30th, October 1st. Would you rehire Steve again? Yeah, we'd rehire Steve again. Okay, the background investigator goes off. Okay, hey, Steve, I called up the supermarket. Pretty much everything seems to line up, but you said October 1st was your last date, but then when I talked to them, they said September 30th was your last date. How do you explain that? Well, it's just a day off, no big deal. Just, we're only talking 24 hours there, dude. No. Okay, again, I'm already worried about the other things that you forgot to list. What else are you going down the path on here? Well, I'm sorry, I was off a day. Okay, Now you're looking unprofessional. Now you're looking like you're not organized. You haven't planned ahead. Now you're looking like you don't have an attention to detail, which all are necessary things for a firefighter. And it's like, and then that background investigator goes back to the fire chief and says, I don't know if I'd hire Steve. There's a couple inconsistencies that I don't know if he just forgot about him, or which is maybe one issue, or maybe he's trying to hide something or whatever, but I don't know if I'd hire him or not. Okay, thanks, dude. Again, you want to be as accurate as possible and as detail oriented as possible and be able to, hey, you know what? Yes, I made a mistake. Okay, life goes on. That's what I share. The background investigator does not want to be caught by surprises. Oh, shit, I forgot to mention that. What else did you forget to mention? Number 15, know yourself inside and out. This is the simple thing as I tell people for oral interviews. They're like, how do I do well in my oral interview? I simply tell them, know yourself inside and out, know the department inside and out, know the community inside and out, and then come in with a smile on your face, some passion and enthusiasm, and you're going to nail the interview. Huh? That's it? Yeah, pretty simple, isn't it? What I mean by know yourself inside and out, past, present, and future is this. This ties into oral board questions because they're going to ask you questions such as, how have you prepared yourself to become a firefighter? Which talks about your background, your heart, your soul, your brain, your vision, your goals, your values. So they're going to ask you questions like, how have you prepared yourself? Why do you want to be a firefighter? What's your greatest strengths that we talked about already? What's your greatest weaknesses? What are your goals? Where do you plan to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? What's your ultimate career goal? That's why I say, we don't know you. You know yourself better than anybody else does. Don't expect that you're going to throw that resume in front of me and I'm going to be able to know everything I can about you. Half the departments out there don't allow resumes during the oral interviews. Yeah, probably half the departments don't allow resumes or an application. So that oral board is literally seeing you and meeting you for the first time when you walk in that door, and you're only in there from 8 to 30 minutes. If you don't say it, you don't get credit for it. So I can't help you with that one. You got to know yourself so well that you can sell yourself. And also outside of the oral board, what I mean by that is when you stop by firehouses and start, hey, I'm Steve, I'm testing to become a firefighter. Can I pick your brains for a little bit? Sure, come on in. You're on stage, you're auditioning. They're already watching you and evaluating you. You never know if those people are going to be on your oral board at some point. But regardless, as soon as you sit down and you ask them questions like, hey, why do you like working at the San Francisco Fire Department? What do you dislike working about the San Francisco Fire Department? You're going through your list of questions. They're going to probably ask you some of the same questions. They're not trying to be jerks. They're trying to help prepare you for the oral board, whether you believe it or not. They're trying to prepare you to be able to have that confidence. So they're going to be probably asking you questions similar to oral board. Hey, so Steve, why do you want to be a firefighter? Why do you want to work for us? What do you know about our department? Hey, so what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your career goals? You're like, man, that was like a interview before the interview. Yeah, it was. Yeah, you're on stage. So don't let your guard down. Know yourself inside and out. Number 16, know why you are unique. We are all unique in some form or fashion. And again, I don't know it, only you know it. So find out why, because it may be an oral board question of tell us what makes you better than anybody else. Now, here's where most candidates, they screw up. They usually say, well, you know what, I'm better than everybody else because of this. Well, okay, you're competing against 50, 100, 1,000, I don't know how many people. You don't know probably most of those people. You may have a few friends taking the test, but you probably don't know most of them. And even your best friends, you probably don't know them well as you think you know them. We never truly know people. So don't downplay or don't make fun of or be condescending to anybody. The best answer is, well, Chief, while I can't speak for any other candidates, I can speak for myself. This is why I believe I am unique. So you're not putting anyone else down, but you're saying this is in a positive manner. This is about me. Maybe you're unique because you're bilingual. Don't say you're unique because, well, I got a 4-year degree, Chief. Okay, probably a handful of candidates have 4 degrees. Well, I got a 2-year degree, so probably a handful of candidates. Well, I'm a paramedic. That was a minimum requirement to apply, so everyone that's taken the interview also had it. Oh, well, I've been a volunteer firefighter for XYZ Fire Department. Yeah, probably you and a few others too. Okay. You want to be unique because at the end of the day, like I mentioned, that oral board, that fire chief, if they're doing the chief's interviews, they've seen how many candidates, sometimes hundreds or more. Everyone runs together and they're all the same pretty much. And again, we want the ones that stand out in a unique, positive way that we don't forget. So it comes down to why pick you. And don't say, well, because I got the most education. I got the best resume. Okay, what does that mean? What is the best resume? Most education? No, doesn't make you better than anybody else. Well, I've been a San Francisco firefighter for 25 years, so I'll be awesome at your department, Oakland or San Jose or my department. Hey, no, that doesn't make you better than anybody else. You sounds like you got some great experience in San Francisco, good for you, but just because you've done things one way at a department may not be the same in our department. No disrespect to their department. We're not any better than them. They're not any better than us. So you've got to have something from the heart and the brain that you can say is unique and that stands out in a positive way. And that's why you got to know yourself inside and out. And I've touched on this already, taking responsibility and ownership, think of what you've done or not done. Really, if you think about it, since the day you were born, it's an audition. It's an audition for the big leagues. The big leagues in this case is becoming a firefighter. Just like professional athletes, whether they started in high school, junior high school, elementary school, professional athletes typically prepared their whole life to be a professional athlete. You're prepared. I mean, some of you may have not decided. There's some of you that may want to become a firefighter when you're 3 years old. Some of you may have, hey, you know what, 15 years old, 25 years old, or even 35. I want to be a firefighter. That's great. Nothing wrong with that. But knowing yourself so well that you take responsibility for your actions or non-actions. But in today's world, it don't happen. Take a look at social media. Take a look at the internet. I mean, the show Cops was just canceled on TV. And take away if you've never watched Cops, it's pretty simple. Camera crews follow around cops, pulling over people and arresting people and interacting with people. Take away why Cops was taken off the air. I don't want to discuss that one. But when cops pulled someone over, think about what most people, regardless of gender, ethnicity, whatever they were, because I've seen all types of people get pulled over. And of course, the question is, so what are you drinking? Or how many drinks have you had? And what's the usual answer? 2. Yeah, right. I mean, maybe they're legit, maybe they're not legit. I remember hearing one guy one time, I think it's 10 or 11 beers I've had, as they're wobbling and they can't stay up straight. I'm thinking, the first honest individual I've ever heard on Cops. Now the cops are going, 11? I mean, could the guy have had more? Probably, maybe. I mean, I don't know, but I'm like, thank God for honesty at least. Now, did he still go to jail? Yeah. Did he still fail the DUI test? Yeah. I mean, did he still get arrested on DUI? I'm assuming so. I don't know the outcome, but hey, thank God for his honesty there. I mean, he didn't seem to argue with the cops on why they're arresting him. He's like, but it's like, instead, most people usually are like, I didn't do anything, and it's human nature. Just if you take a look at so much of what's going on, and I know people are quick to blame politics, but I want to keep politics out of this. It doesn't matter about politics. As long as I've been an adult, 30 some years, it seems like we live in a society, we train people, but think about all the TV shows you've watched and all the interactions maybe, but the information that's out there is most people, the first action is to lie and deny when they're called in the carpet for something. Now, a lot of people apologize, some don't apologize, but usually the first instinct when they're caught is they lie or they deny. And then it usually comes out that they are truly a liar or for whatever reason. So I think it's almost ingrained in some people because that's when you turn on the TV, it's just human nature. Well, be that one person instead that says, yeah, I made a mistake, whether that mistake was 30 years ago or that mistake was 2 weeks ago or 2 hours ago. I screwed up. I made a mistake. It's just when people, when they're not sincere about it or they don't recognize their actions, I think that's where the challenge begs. And again, you may think, well, what does this have to do with firefighting? I made a comment earlier that I'll say time and time again, we don't hire resumes, we hire people. We don't hire resumes because we can train you on most of the skills. We can't train you on the people skills. I want good ethical people with good customer service orientation, with good people skills, good communication skills, good listening skills. No different from what, say, a police officer wants. If you're a police chief, want to hire somebody, you hopefully want to hire someone that's got good people skills, someone that's not always ready to be a hothead, someone that wants to be able to work with others of all types, someone that wants to be able to serve their community. I mean, that's what we're looking for, is good quality people. And that's, I think, the hardest to get in today's world because it's so easy to, I guess, think it's okay to do other things that are inappropriate. Because if you are having trouble taking ownership and responsibility, it might hold you back. And there may be some departments, because again, chiefs can see through your bullshit, because the fire service is looking for people that take responsibility and ownership. I mean, It's not just the fire service. The law, I mean, again, if you're a police chief, you want people to take responsibility and ownership, not make excuses. Any employer, public agency, private industry, any employer should want to find people that are taking responsibility, ownership, that have good character traits, that are good, positive people. You know, key point number 18, be a great family member, friend, neighbor, worker, coworker, human being. Why? Obviously, it's the right thing to do, but it also makes you happy, pays off dividends, builds relationships. More importantly, though, well, not more importantly, a good benefit of being a nice person and being a great person is that don't forget in your background investigation, that background investigator is going to contact your family members, your friends to actually ask questions about you. And I know most of the time it's a waste of time because when I see some of these background investigation reports come back, I'm like, no one ever puts bad stuff on there. And some people say, well, that's because the individual only put the people that they wanted the background investigator to call. I get that. But the background investigators are also smart. Yeah, you, the candidate, only put those names on there that you want them to call. Well, good background investigators are also not just calling those people, but asking each of those people, hey, is there anybody else I could call that, you know, maybe another friend or family member that I can call to get some more information about Steve? And that's how they usually get the best information, is because one of those people that were on your primary list, given the name of somebody else that was not on the list, and then you got someone, oh yeah, he's a piece of crap there. He's always late for this. He's always late for that. Oh, that's mean. They're, you know, they're throwing him under the bus. Oh, that's, you know, that bullshit. No, that's, again, that's, what would you do if you were the fire chief making a final decision? You'd rather have enough information to make a good informed decision, I would venture. But those folks may be contacted about you. So you want to have a good, stellar track record. Most importantly, the right thing to do. So if you do have any burned bridges or you've done past mistakes, as I've hit on, try to repair those burned bridges. Try to show and convince that department you haven't made the same mistake twice. I'll use an example. When I was 23, sorry, I'm drawing a blank right now, 22, 23 years old, I got a DUI. Thankfully, it wasn't driving under the influence at the time. It was reduced from DUI to reckless driving. So it wasn't a DUI, but it was related to drinking and driving. I still had to list on my resume. I still had to talk about my background investigation packet. Did it keep me from becoming a firefighter? I think it did. I mean, I became a firefighter, but I probably had to take more tests than the average person because I had that reckless driving that I had to explain every time, every background investigation. But I still got hired. But I also made a point to know that, you know what, I was very quick to say, listen, I made a major mistake. This is before Uber and Lyft rideshare, but I made a major mistake. Yeah, I was drinking and driving. I should not have been doing that. I have no excuse. But to prove to you that I haven't made the same mistake twice, and I was testing like a couple years after that happened. Since that point, I don't drink and drive. I enjoy having a couple beers at times, but I make sure I have, you know, either I'm staying in a hotel right there, or it's at home, or I'm not leaving the facility, obviously, or I've got somebody else driving me as a designated driver. But I've learned my lesson. I do not drink and drive anymore, and I'm lucky it did not turn out to be anything bad, but it still cost me a lot dearly, monetarily wise, because I had to pay attorney's fees and I had to pay court fees. That was not cheap. It also cost me insurance. I had to pay a lot more insurance. So since that happened, I've learned a lot of mistakes. And if you look at my driving record since then, I have not had the same thing happen twice. And I've also learned a valuable lesson that I will do my best to not let happen again. And to this day, I have not let it happen again. I think it was 89 when it happened. So 31 years, do the math, knock on wood. I still enjoying some beers, but again, thank God for Uber ride shares. And even one beer, I wouldn't even drive with one beer, because one beer, I'm not drunk. But let's say I get rear-ended by somebody, and now all of a sudden I got alcohol in my breath with one beer, and the next thing you know, I'm not drunk. But then next thing you know, the other person smells alcohol, and you go, hey, I think he's been drinking. Or the cop comes up to exchange information, goes, you've been drinking? No, I'm sorry, I just had one beer, you know. And let me take a breathalyzer. And again, I could pass I would hope to pass a breathalyzer with one beer. But I just don't, it just don't want to go there, because it just has the potential to lead down so many bad paths and everything else. It's cleaner to do that. But again, that's my example. Now, today's world, the DUI is a lot more serious today than it was back in the early 90s. mean, I had one chief joke at me in the early 90s because he asked me a question. Hey, Steve, is there anything that we're going to find out when we do our background that you're going to be maybe not proud of? And I go, yeah, chief, my DUI. That was only a reckless driving, but it was originally scheduled to be this, blah, blah, blah. And the chief joked, Steve, I don't give a shit about that. He goes, half my department's got DUIs. He goes, anything else that I should really be concerned about? No, chief, not that I'm aware of. Okay. Well, now in some departments, if you get a DUI, they won't even hire you for at least 3 to 5 years. So even with a DUI in your record, they won't even hire you for 3 to 5 years. I don't know if it's the case that some will never hire you because, again, there's sometimes only so many candidates, and sometimes department have to lower their standards of what they accept from your background. But it can keep you, especially it's considered more of a serious offense today. It's still stupid, but try to learn from those mistakes. You know, it's never too late for a fresh start, without a doubt. You know, and like I said, right thing to do. Number 19, don't forget you're always being watched, read, heard, and evaluated, especially today. I'm glad I didn't grow up in the social media era and the internet era. I mean, great tools, great resources. But like I said, when you Google your name, hopefully you're proud of the stuff that comes up. I mean, it's like, I try to Google myself regularly, and thank God it's mostly connections to articles I've written or my name, classes I'm teaching or whatever, stuff with the fire department. I mean, okay, but I see some people, you know, just like I've had some students go, man, chief, I got this on my, yeah, good luck trying to get that off there, because as you know, the internet, even if you get it deleted today, there's still ways for that stuff to never be, you know, deleted permanently. So yeah, social media, and we could go on, and I probably should be doing a whole class, and I will in the future, on social media, because social media is so critical. It's a great tool. It's an awesome tool to have, and I encourage you to be on it, but be very careful. Everyone thinks, well, I got my First Amendment rights to free speech. Do Google searching right now. The number of fire chiefs, deputy chiefs, captains, battalion chiefs, firefighters getting fired or disciplined, and not just firefighters, but police officers and other governmental employees getting fired because of their Facebook posts, off duty, of course, but they're getting fired. And that's a big epidemic right now. Mobile, Alabama, literally just happened a couple of days ago. 3 firefighters were just fired from Mobile, Alabama Fire Department because of their Facebook posts that were considered racist Facebook posts. And the fire chief was taking some crap from people going, well, that's my off-duty time. You can't, you know, that's my First Amendment right. Courts and studies have shown time and time again that you have the right to free speech. However, your employer has the right to basically hold you accountable for that free speech, especially if it's not appropriate with today's guidelines. Like the Mobile, Alabama fire chief goes, yeah, your free speech, though, is not as important as the public relations of your employer, the Mobile, Alabama Fire Department. Your public relations for our fire department is more critical, meaning the damage that those 3 individuals did for I don't know how many people have worked for Mobile, probably a couple hundred people, but the potential damage that those 3 individuals did because of their racist posts, while some people might have approved of those, think about most people not approving those or agreeing with those posts. And in today's world, as a governmental agency, that's what your employer is going to do. So again, I don't want you to be scared. I want you to be exposed. But again, be very careful, because a post that you like or a post that you post on, even if you're off duty, or even better yet, you want to be a firefighter, you never know if that stuff's going to be evaluated in your background test. Someone's always watching you and paying attention. I think we all let our guard down, and this is amazing. Think about police officers. I couldn't do the job. I mean, very stressful job to begin with. Not that ours isn't stressful, but think about this now. Cops now have to wear body cameras. Most of them, not all of them do, but think about some of the tragic things that we've seen that have gone on in this country recently, and they're from cop body camera footage. And I'm thinking to myself, holy crap, you're a police officer. And again, like any industry, any line of work, majority of individuals doing that are good, solid people. I mean, I know many cops that are very pissed off at some of the actions of some of these idiots that are out there, because it's making them all look bad. That's just human nature, is we all tend to look at, like, oh, I hate lawyers, they're all bad. No, not all lawyers are bad. Not all whatever are bad, you know, but that's the perception, and we tend to forget that at times. So it still amazes me when you got a cop wearing a body camera is still doing something inappropriate. It's like, holy crap. And I'm not a psychologist. I can't even imagine that, but firefighters don't wear body cameras, but guess what? Everyone's out there filming your every moves. And if it's not everyone filming you on their TVs or their devices, Cameras are out there everywhere. Cameras are on houses, cameras are on doorbells, I mean, Ring doorbells that are filming you, as well as cameras on buildings. So you're getting watched. You got to know you're on stage at all times. So be on your best behavior, because it can hurt you becoming a firefighter. It can hurt you once you're on the job. You never know who's watching you. I mean, literally, you're 24/7, 365, especially as a future firefighter. When you're doing firehouse visits, you're getting evaluated, you're getting tested. Obviously, social media posts, like I said, there's no second chance for first impression in today's world, especially if it's something that's considered, you know, racist, sexist, harassment, discriminatory. There's just zero tolerance for that stuff. And I know some people say, well, that sucks. Well, yeah, life sucks, but life's about choices too. So hopefully you're making the right choices. I mean, I wish I had a better answer than that. Do the right thing. Number 20, be the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, as I touched on. Pretty much that's simple. You know, bad habits are hard to change. That's why when you look at cops, I mean, I would think now that cops that have to wear body cameras would not be doing, you know, not be beating the crap out of people. But I'm thinking to myself, well, here's someone that already, did they forget they have a body camera on? Even if they forgot they had a body camera on, did they forget that the 5 other cops all had body cameras? And hell, how about the ones that are getting filmed by the people? I mean, you got the crowd of people around you that are filming you and they're still doing inappropriate stuff. And you're going, well, hell, I don't know. I mean, so again, did they hire bad people? I don't know. I don't know what their backgrounds were, their psychological evaluations turned out to be, but I also know that, you know, I don't know. But again, bad habits are hard to change. So yeah, very frustrating. If you've done something once, you know, it may have been a fluke. And that's why I said about the DUIs. If we had one DUI 5 years ago, 10 years ago, okay, maybe so be it. But if you've had like 4 DUIs, or you've been in 2 fights recently for some reason, or you've been in trouble twice, 3 times, that's starting to show the pattern of behavior. That best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. You know, and in today's world, here's the thing to think about. When I grew up, everyone I was always taught, hey, Steve, we're a society that gives you second chances. No, we're not. We don't get second chances in today's world. You know, the old school mentality is, well, let that person go to court and have their day in court. That isn't even working in today's world. That people don't even get their day in court. People are getting fired. And you may say, well, that's BS and that's ridiculous. Call it what you want, but put yourself in the eyes of a city manager, a fire chief, a police chief, and now you got how many angry tax-paying citizens or residents that are out there ready to have your butt fired if you don't do something about it. And it's hard. I mean, there's no easy answers here. And again, the easy answer is everyone be on their best behavior and do the right thing. Do things that you'd want to have others be proud of you for. Do things that your parents would be happy to shake your hand, pat you on the back for, that, hey, son, hey, daughter, you did the right thing. As we talk about backgrounds, we wind this down. This was interesting. Johnny Manziel, Cleveland Browns quarterback. I remember seeing this recently, and I just laughed at it. Here's Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel couldn't handle, he was, I can't remember all the facts and figures about him, but anyway, he was drafted very young, like many professional sports athletes were, by the Cleveland Browns NFL team. And, you know, he, like many other athletes, couldn't handle his, I guess, off-duty curricular activities, whether they were, you know, alcohol related or just partying or having fun or whatever else. But he basically worked himself out of a job. I mean, being late, not showing up for things on time, being late, not performing I mean, if he was performing on his A game every day on the field and kicking the crap out of everything and leading them to the Super Bowl, no one would be probably talking about this. But because of their poor record, which wasn't necessarily all his fault. I mean, it takes a team, it takes the coaching staff. I get that. But the funny thing is, here's the thing. The Browns ended up getting rid of him, and I think he's an out-of-work quarterback like other athletes are that didn't perform. And part of it was probably his attitude. But now it's funny because he's blaming the Cleveland Browns. He was like, and I love this, he's blaming, if the Cleveland Browns had done their homework, they would have known he was lazy, because besides his partying, he was just very lazy. He didn't have apparently a lot of drive to be the best he could be. And I'm just sort of chuckling going, okay, now you're blaming your former employer that they should have done their homework better. Well, getting back to fire departments, public governmental agencies, most of us usually do background investigations, psychological evaluations, maybe polygraph evaluations. You know, these things can come out sometimes, but sometimes even in the professional sports world, just like the fire departments, the police departments, sometimes it's hard to get good candidates, and sometimes departments and athletic organizations, they tend to focus on more of the skills. I mean, he had the skills down at one point, obviously. It was the character. So think about this statement. As I shared earlier, we don't hire resumes, we hire people. Good employers, whether they're sports teams, whether they're fire departments, police departments, good employers, good chiefs, hire for character. Good character, positive character, can-do attitude, nice people with good, solid character traits. Hire for character, but train for skills. Hire for character, train for skills. But that's the opposite. Unfortunately, many times fire departments, police departments, and even professional athletic organizations, they care more about the skills than they care about the character, because, oh man, this guy's awesome. He's going to take us to the Super Bowl. He's going to get us the World Series because if he's so, you know, the Heisman Trophy winner, he's an all-star in college and high school. Yeah, but even the NFL does their background and their homework on these candidates, and it's like they make an informed decision of, you know what, we don't give a shit about him getting arrested off duty. We know he's going to get us the Super Bowl, at least give us a chance. And then, of course, the guy gets arrested off duty, not saying necessarily him. Somebody else gets arrested off duty for domestic violence or whatever else. Well, it's a sticky wicket. But again, realize that in a perfect world, employers are looking for character and then training for skills. So my advice to you is obviously try to have the skills, don't get me wrong, but more importantly, demonstrate the character to the future employer. Because here's what it comes down to. If you really think about it, we'll leave it on this. Number 21, you're in control of your destiny. Ain't nobody else in control of your destiny. So your goal is to pretty much manage yourself that way properly. So last one I have right here. I look at some of these pictures that I've seen on the internet. There was one picture that was circulating on the internet a while ago on the top left of, these are UC Irvine students that voted to have the American flag removed from the school campus lobby. Now, I'm not taking sides. It's not a political agenda or anything else, but like life, we have choices in life. And I know sometimes when we're in school, when we're in college, like these are college students right here, and maybe it's peer pressure. Maybe they felt it was the right thing to do. Maybe they just couldn't control. They didn't want to be the outcast, not getting involved with everybody else. I don't know. But for every action, there's a reaction. So they felt that that was the right thing to do, and they participated in behavior, which is their right to do. And I'm not, again, taking sides, but then think, I know we're not always mature enough when we're in high school or even college to think 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in the future. But you look at, you know, now you're applying for, and it's not just a governmental job, it could be some other job. And then all of a sudden this pops up of your background when someone's doing a Google search or a background investigation on you. It's like, hey, so that was, well, that was me 10 years ago, you know, but now I'm, you know, I mean, again, stand for what you believe in, whatever your values are, but be willing to own them and be willing to accept that there may be some things that certain employers may choose not to go with. You know, and then I love this picture on the top right here. It demotivates me to think that a person who kicks a ball wins 300 times more money than a person who saves lives. I mean, I hear that a lot in the fire service. All these professional athletes making multi-millions of dollars. I got no friggin' sympathy, and I'm just a civil servant, firefighter, police officer, and you know what? I don't make squat. Okay, first of all, don't worry about them. Worry about yourself. And you can't compare apples to apples, because if you really think about it, we work for the government. We can only make so much money before we bankrupt a community. I mean, a city has to balance a budget just like you at your home has to balance a budget. Our budgets are made on tax revenues. You know, in most communities, it's tax revenues, property tax, sales tax. Look at the coronavirus situation right now around the country. In the last 3 months, there are cities that are going to maybe go bankrupt or maybe have to lay off firefighters or cops because of all the drop, because businesses are closed. So drop in sales tax revenue. Hotels are closed. Restaurants are closed except for takeout. So a lot of these businesses, and some people can't afford their property taxes. Well, that ties to the government. And guess what? We're governmental employees. But again, we're not a private company like a sports team is. So yeah, if you are, say, LeBron James, an awesome athlete, you're going to make a hell of a lot more money than, say, a marginal athlete. But you can't compare. It's not an apples to apples comparison. Don't worry about things that you have no control over. If you enjoy sports, enjoy sports. Do I think they're high paid? Yeah, but you know what? If I was playing that, if I was a professional athlete, I'd be wanting to make money too. Hey, don't worry about that stuff. Focus on what you can focus on. And now what you can focus on, sorry, the bottom part here, if you've been paying attention to the fire departments over the years, traditionally we've lost about 100 firefighters a year in what we call line of duty deaths. So about 100 firefighters die in the line of duty every year on the average, some more, some less. Well, I know the stat is a couple years old, but the stat's still relevant. Yes, we still kill and injure about 100 firefighters a year, but now firefighters that are dying by suicide and PTSI, not PTSD, I hate the term disorder, but post-traumatic stress injury, we're having more and more issues from suicide. And it's not just firefighters, cops, and I think people in general around the country, sad to say. It's just a strange, sad time. But anyway, these are the things we can focus on, is trying to help our brothers and sisters as best as possible. Keep them from getting killed and injured in the line of duty. Keep them healthy and well as best as possible. And I know sometimes that's hard, but be that brother, be that sister for somebody else, because we live and we die by a team. And given the challenging times that we're in right now, everyone handles things differently. So we have to be the best we can be to support our teammates, coworkers, friends, family members, and ultimately be the best we can be, and hopefully, you know, have something to show for it. So lastly, as I shared, my books that I've had published on my websites, my 2 books that I have coming up hopefully later this year, if not early next year, but more importantly, my contact information. I sincerely thank you for the gift of your time today, and I sincerely mean that. Anytime I'm fortunate to get up in front of people, obviously I enjoy live classes in front of physical people, whether it's 2 people or 100 or 1,000 people, or at least an audience here on a webinar, and anyone that may be watching this after the fact via YouTube or my website. I appreciate the opportunity. So thanks for taking your time on a Saturday or whatever day you're watching this after the fact to at least listen to my babbling. I encourage you to check out the other webinars I've done that I think have some value to them. And you know what? Most importantly, I'm a resource. Here's my social media footprint as well too. Please feel free to connect. Please feel free to reach out. Like I said, hopefully our paths will cross at some point in the future, and I wish you all nothing but the best. So I'm more than happy to hang out for a Q&A, and if you have any questions, answers, good stuff, bad stuff, feel free to share it here on the Q&A. Feel free to reach out to me afterward if you don't want to do it on the Q&A, but like I said, I'll stay around for a couple minutes, and then nobody's stepping up. I'll be happy to say have a great day, everybody, and shut you off. But like I said, hopefully the information was valuable in some way. All right. I see one. Michelle, thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you for your time, Michelle. Appreciate that. Well, all right. So without further ado, I'm going to stop the recording here. Like I said, feel free to reach out if you have any suggestions on other webinars that you don't see on my website. Lots of free stuff. And if nothing else, stay safe, be well, and hopefully our paths will cross at some point, everybody. All right.